All right, looks like we are live. I want to thank everybody for being here today with Matt Man and myself. We've already got a great audience. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for the support. I've got a list of things that we are going to be discussing, and a lot of it is kind of just going to be based off comments and questions from you guys in the chat. We're going to be doing this for a couple hours. And before we get into anything else, though, what I'm going to do is play you guys a video. It's just a couple minutes, and it's going to kind of give you the rundown on what's going on and what the goal is for tonight. And then once that's done, we'll go over a few other things. And this is your chance. If you have creation versus evolution related questions or ancestry or whatever comes to mind, let us know. We've got a couple videos maybe we'll go through, and we'll kind of make this a fun party, I guess you could say. So here we go, guys. Sit back, relax. This is a couple minute video that we put together with the help of the one and only Logical, Plausible, Probable. So make sure you subscribe to John Maddox. Hey everybody, Donnie and Matt here from Team Standing for Truth. While most of you see me on a regular basis, none of what has been done with the channel and the creation of the amazing content you guys have come to know and love could have been done without Matt, my original partner here at Standing for Truth. He's been turning out videos for our ministry almost daily for years now. And unfortunately, his computer has finally reached the end of its life. We really need your help. You guys are the life and blood of this channel, and we have to help him get a new computer so that we can get back to producing the content you love and helping spread God's word. He's in California, I'm in Canada, and I don't have his skills at video production. So until we get him back in business, production is on temporary lockdown.
Okay, so here's what's up on my end. In order to do what I do, I need a computer that has at least 16 gigabytes of memory, a high-speed processor, and a high-end graphics card. Otherwise, it can take 3 to 4 times as long to render videos. Things crash mid-production, and you literally can't do anything with the computer until the video is done. For major projects, that means you can waste an entire day of productivity just waiting. And if the computer crashes, you have to start over. It makes you want to pull your hair out. Good thing I used to be an MMA fighter and can punch a bag to get out my frustrations. To get back to work, we really need to raise about $3,000 as soon as possible. And I really hope everything we have produced has earned your trust in our abilities, and we have earned your support. However, there are a few upgrades that would make things even better. So if we could get to about 3,500, that means we can get a computer with extra RAM that will make things even faster. And if we can get to 4,000, that gets an even better processor and things can be lightning quick.
Now, I don't want you to think we are asking for huge donations or feel that small donations won't help us get a new computer. I'm actually hoping a bunch of people can make small donations. And as a community, this problem can be solved and solved quickly. We really need your help. Logical, Plausible, Probable even had to help us put this video together. What would we do without good old John Maddox? Thank you in advance for your support, ideas, and prayers. As I've said so many times before, you guys really are the life and blood of this ministry. Please make sure to share this around with all of your friends and help us get back to work. God bless all of you. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching that video. Again, we got a great chat. As I just said in that video, you guys are the life and blood of this channel. God bless you all. And as you can see here, Logical, Plausible, Probable has put in the link, the appropriate link for anybody who feels compelled to want to help further this ministry in terms of helping us accomplish many of the goals we have. We have an endless list of projects we're working on, including movies, documentaries, videos, creation, biblical creation basics, so on and so forth. We've put out probably about 11 or 1,200 videos at this point. And any of those videos that required editing, for the most part, have come from Matt. So his computer went strong. It was a healthy computer. It had its fair share of antioxidants and nutrients and protein. But after a few years of, how many thousands of files, right, Matt? Even back in the day, we used to do what's called double feature night. So that alone was, at times we'd have 9-10 hour videos that we would edit. So that being said, LPP did put the link in the chat. Before I hand it over to you, Matt, just to kind of go over what we're doing exactly tonight, go over a couple funny comments. Jackson Rowe, he said, did you try unplugging it and plugging it back in? But several times, and several times it worked, but this time no luck. So just kidding. I appreciate that. Jackson Rowe actually and I and Kent were in the middle of setting up their big round too. So I appreciate you being here, Jackson. I saw a couple other funny comments as well, but chat's moving quick, so I think I lost it. So that being said, Matt, you want to tell the audience a little bit more about what's going on and why a new upgraded computer really is just so important to this ministry?
Yeah, pretty much from when we first started, I started doing edited videos, and I really didn't know how much stress they put on a computer either. So most of our content was pretty long, and I started saving a bunch of different videos. That took up space, and I didn't realize the more space I took up, the slower it got. The slower it gets, the more I put pressure under it. The computer wasn't designed to edit in the first place. It was just one of the features. So basically, it would be like, I want a race car, but I don't own a race car, but I need to race. And that's kind of like what I was forcing my computer to do. And I didn't really realize all that was required, mostly for editing. So the computer that I initially bought was never intended to be such a mainstream thing used for standing for truth. It was basically just like, okay, I'm going to get into a little bit of editing here and there, and we'll see what happens. And then I started making full-on movies with the thing. And it's not really the computer itself that I would say was the problem. It was just that I was overworking it. Every day I was pumping out 2 videos, and some of them were really long. And when you get longer videos, you're just putting tremendous amounts of stress. And there were a couple nights when it was like, let's do a double feature. And I was downloading 10-hour videos, and I was editing and changing around the front and the beginning and just downloading it and then uploading it. The computer was just getting wrecked. And since it was just like, I literally walked into the Mac store and bought a desktop computer. That was essentially what I did. And then it came with something called iMovie. So I said, oh, this will be easy. It's already built into the thing. So the unfortunate part is Mac isn't very helpful with saying, oh, we can just fix that for you, or oh, no problem, you just need to upgrade this or something. They're like, you just need something entirely new. So it's kind of a problem. You can't just go, I'm just going to add more memory to this. I'm going to add more things. Mac's kind of hard. You can't open a Mac and just insert a new motherboard or a processor. So they're kind of a nuisance. And everything that I have is on a Mac now. So it's a shame because I have to get another Mac to replace everything because it's not compatible with the PC. So it's kind of a nightmare. So what initially happened is I was making a video, and all of a sudden it turned off. It just went black. And I was like, oh, well, no problem. And then I tried to turn it on, and it didn't turn on. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just overheated. So I bought this thing. It's kind of funny, really. A little AC cooler aimed at the back of my computer.
I remember that. That.
It works. It's kind of cool. It worked pretty good. But the next video it just did the same thing. It turned off again. And I was like, what's going on? And here's the strange part is I can't just hit the power button and turn the computer back on, even when it cools down. I can let it rest overnight. It won't matter. I can't turn it on. I literally have to unplug it from the wall and plug it back in somewhere else. I can't even plug it back into the same outlet spot. So it was really peculiar. So I took it and I brought it to Mac and I said, can you guys fix this for me? And they said, okay, we'll scan it for you. You have to set up an appointment and bring it in. So I dropped it off, did all that. I came back the next day and they said, we don't see anything wrong with it. Said nothing's wrong with it. I was like, okay. So I brought it home and I was like, great, maybe there's something was wrong. Maybe I did something wrong, and they closed it. Sure enough, went down again. Problem again. So I was like, okay. And then John was like, maybe you have a problem with your power, your outlet. It's not pulling enough amps or something right now. So I said, oh, good. So I'll try different outlets. So I bought an extension cord, ran it everywhere. And nothing worked. Every one was wrong. So I brought the computer over to another house, and the same problem again. So I kept having problem after problem. I think the funniest one was Jason, who said it's probably possessed. So I said, okay, I guess we're gonna have to see if it's got a demon. I'll get a minister over here.
Well, and then what did we do? We ended up calling in a couple Catholic priests. They came in for a couple hours, worked their magic, but even that
holy water made it worse.
Yeah. Yeah, holy water made it worse. Yeah.
Who would have thought water and computers? But
right.
Live and learn.
Live and learn. Live and learn. And I don't think like a lot of people. What's funny is behind the scenes, what we would do oftentimes, especially with a lot of our later videos we've done, edited videos, your computer would crash 6 or 7 times in the middle of like a simple upload or a simple edit. So
that's what finally possessed me to do this, because Matt Powell asked for the debunking of the R and Raw flood series to upload on Kent's channel. I said, no problem, easy. Matter of fact, let me edit you in real quick and then I'll send you the file. 7 attempts later, I gave up. I was like, I just got to do something else. All day is gone, wasted, trying to do a simple video that's already done. I've already made the video. I just had to put a couple stamps in it.
And not to mention too is, I think we've now published, how many books have we published?
Ooh,
15, 14, 13, yeah, 15. Many of them behind me. The latest one, Global or Local Flood.
It barely
it's so funny because I still see these local flooders, a lot of them, the old earthers, using the same arguments that we've demolished in here. They're just not being addressed. So all the ones here, but we've done all the editing and kind of final stage work in terms of our books on that computer, right? So
yeah,
there's definitely a lot of data and stuff. So I appreciate from the audience already. We've got a ton of people donating, ton of people, such a blessing. We got the best subscribers, supporters. That's why we call our ministry, that's why we refer to us as Team Standing for Truth. It's a team effort. Not just one person can do what we do. It is a team effort, and like I said, our subscribers and supporters are a blessing. Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry to cut you off there, brother.
Oh no, it's all good. We just had to inform everybody like really what's going on and why you guys were seeing content literally coming out almost daily, and then all of a sudden it just kind of dies down. It's like, well, I only have so much time with my computer each day before I either have to just walk away out of anger, or I just go, well, I'm going to make a 2-minute video. You can send me audio clips for about 5 minutes, and it takes me about 3 hours to make that into a movie, into a video that's got images and everything. Now, it doesn't seem like it's long, but when your computer's, warming up and it's shutting down in the middle of production and not saving as it goes along, because iMovie doesn't have a click and save button. So it's not like I can edit something for 5 minutes or 1 minute and click save. It just automatically randomly saves. So I'll be through 10 minutes of working or an hour, and it'll go off and I'll open it back up and it's missing. I'm like, oh, wonderful. Chose not to save. Great. So then I have to start over. And I've gotten to the point where I'm fast at making videos, mostly because of you. You say, hey, can we get a video out tomorrow? I'm like, oh, okay.
in the middle of the night, 5 in the morning, you're fast asleep, you've been at it all day, and all of a sudden your phone starts dinging and it's SFT. You know, I get those random ideas in the middle of the night. And boom, Matt, what about this? What about this? And this is why, just to give people an idea, and you can see this on our website, as I've pointed out in the past, we do have our own website designer now, who monthly, he's doing updates. Actually, in the next couple of days, there should be some updates there as well. Just the editing alone is, you know, for Matt, is probably 8 to 12 hours a day. Where it's not something one person can do. And what I mean by that is everything. So then you have me, who probably oftentimes 5-6 hours a day just in emails, setting up debates, doing the shows. So the point is that it's a team effort. There's many of us involved here, and where we can brainstorm ideas, right? And then therefore come to the conclusion, yeah, this is going to be a good idea for a video or a series. That's where Matt can now, behind the scenes, get that done, while I do other things that are important to the ministry. We've made some great connections. We've got some great events coming for you guys over the next few months, actually. Our subscribers have been booming as well. So I want to thank everybody. I mean, I think we're at like 6.3 thousand subscribers now. We got some big debates planned for you in the future. If you check the event schedule, last night I just set, I think, 3 or 4. We've got some major events in December and January. I just confirmed a few more debates today, both theology, science related. So listen, we're doing our best to put out the best content for you guys. Also, I should say, we announced this last week in the community post, but I also mentioned it a couple days ago during the Snake Was Right versus Kent Hovind debate, which was epic. I mean, we had 300 people live for that. But we've partnered as Team Standing for Truth Ministries. We've partnered with the Creation Research Team, John Mackay, Dr. Diane Eager, Sam Jenkins, Joseph Hubbard, for example, on a new short film, which we've been behind the scenes working with Sam on. You know, we've had some sneak peeks, and I'm telling you, this film is fantastic. The CGI is awesome. You guys are going to love the visuals in this film. So, you know, we've partnered with such an amazing ministry. As a matter of fact, throughout November, we've got Sam Jenkins coming on. As you can see, we've got Joseph Hubbard and John Mackay all in during this month. So their ministry has been an incredible blessing, and it really is just an honor and a privilege to partner with such an amazing ministry like Creation Research on this important film. So point is, we got a lot for you guys. And on the editing side of things, especially, this is why a computer that does not result in Matt pulling out all his hair or beating on the current computer is so important. And I see donations coming in left and right, guys. You really are a blessing. We have we really do have the best support team around. Even Michael, the Canadian atheist, we appreciate you, my good man. Thanks for being here. Michael's been on here numerous times. We're currently working at setting him up with a few more debates. I've got emails coming in left and right in terms of debates and discussion. So anybody interested in those types of things, you want to get your feet wet, you want to get into the octagon, you know, what we call it in the debate world, shoot me an email. So Matt, I'll hand it back to you, brother.
Yeah. The debates are going good on your channel. That's pretty much what's saving the channel from not having constant videos being made by me, is the fact that you're having interviews and debates. And that's the only thing that's not really being edited much, right? I mean, you're pumping out the intros now that's already been made. So really, it's been a huge help. And people love it. It's great.
Well, it's why it's so important, because, and what's cool now is you can run a ministry in 2021 where we've got you all the way in California. We've got me in Canada. You know, everybody in the team, for example, George and David McQueen, they're out in Australia. And yet we can coordinate perfectly as if we're situated in a building all in the same city or something. So I find that to be pretty cool. And that's why you can get your stuff done, where you are. I can get my stuff done. As Godzilla Freak puts it, long distance ministry. Hopefully one day we can actually have an in-person conference where we all actually come together and meet each other for the first time.
Yeah. We should do that at Towel or something.
Yeah. That would be pretty cool. To actually have these conversations in person. But, there's questions flying in here simply about this. Jamie Russell says, what video editing software do you use? Matt, can you hear me?
Yeah, I muted myself because I saw John say that we need to pin the comment. So I tried to do that for you, but I opened up
I can go do it if you want. I'll do it on my phone. For some reason, you can't do it over the StreamYard, which is weird. Yeah, so let me go do it from my phone. And yeah, if you wanted to, question from Jamie, he's asking, what video editing software do you use?
Oh, it's built into every worthless Mac that exists. It's called iMovie, and they all have it. Well, they should all have it. Phones have a different thing. Of course, it's Apple, but most of the, I think all Macs have it built into them. So getting another Mac just essentially just comes with another iMovie. The only thing that they do different is they upgrade. So it's like 11.1 version, and then the next Mac will come out and it'll be version 12.2 or something. You know what I mean? They're upgrading with every new version that comes out. I've had this one for about 4 years now, and I've used it for all the videos that have been made for the channel, without any upgrades or anything. So it's done good, especially for it not really being made to handle it. So the fact that it supplied all those videos, even the long ones. For a while there, we had a couple 10 and 12-hour videos, but it can't do that anymore. For some reason, it just kept getting shorter and shorter, and kept messing with itself even more. But computer designed to be that way.
And I guess I'm not the most knowledgeable on different types of editing softwares or anything like that, but Godzilla Freak says, I mean, at this point, with all the help support we're getting, guys, every penny counts, and that can be something as well. With a more heavy duty professional computer comes along with it a more professional editing software, right, Matt? So
yeah, fast. Not just speed. It's more being able to handle the quality. Right now, I download things in like 340, 540p, maybe 720. I mean, higher quality is better, to get the 10,000 high definition, but not all of our videos need that. Sometimes we just need good visuals, pictures that come up, and screen shares, things like that. But what I like is that being able to make DVDs. Like if you go online and you buy the books on Amazon, you're pretty much just going to get your book. That's fine. That's great. And it's really easy on us because we don't have a printing press. We don't have a publisher. We don't have any of that. So we're relying on Amazon to do that. But what would be really nice is if we had the books on hand, we purchase them ourselves through Amazon. We get a big stack of them, and then I make DVDs for everybody. So when you buy your book through us, it'll be the same price as Amazon, except for you're going to get a free DVD. And I bought something just to do that, actually, and to start burning DVDs, but my computer can't even do it. So I was like, okay, I guess that's on hold for now. So I just guess just back to editing. You know what I mean?
In the chat, Saved by Grace, I lost the comment, but he made me laugh because he pointed out that the truth is I spilt my coffee on the computer. That'd be a problem for my computer. Wouldn't affect yours all the way in California, but I can't say that that isn't a risk. Saved by Grace with all the coffee I drink. So
look at this one. Look at this one.
Go ahead.
Okay, you really want to see how much money we make on books right now? Here you go, guys. Live for everybody. All right. KDP Publishing. Here we go, everyone.
Well, let's just make it a little more, put it this way. With how much KDP, I don't think we got to show them the details. That might be unnecessary. But put it this way. Yeah, there's not... There's not a whole lot per book. Now, with the books, what's important about the books is getting the truth out there, right?
Yeah.
More people hear about us, more people find out who we are. And yeah, Cheryl says you don't need to just.
I just wanted him to laugh. That's all. It's horrible.
No. I think we could probably just tell them rather than disclose. But yeah, the point is, the biggest support definitely comes in through things like this, through Patreon, through, super chats during our interviews, our debates. Still laughing, Matt, just about to pull up our entire, let me show you my private bank account.
Let me show you. Here's the behind the scenes. And look how bad it is. People think we make money doing this. It's hilarious.
Oh, that's funny.
First of all, Amazon has a minimum price you can sell a KDP book for, a Kindle version for. All of my books are set at the minimum, so I couldn't even make any money on them if I wanted to. And then there's the physical books. The physical books have the capacity to make money, but the second you want them in color, you're not making money. You're not, because they're so expensive to print. Right. You don't make anything. So we basically make books for you to learn on that we don't make anything from. So if you're going to help donate to his Patreon, become a member. That's how you actually make I would ever get any money at all.
Yeah. So, as Brother Sygard here says, nobody gets rich from books. No, the books, the information contained in the books, selling a lot, not to obviously get rich, as Sai is saying, but just to get the information out there, especially me, I love hard copies of information, and I'm kind of a book addict, so it helps get the ministry out there. And then people, we've had so many people find us through Goodreads. I mean, our Goodreads has hundreds of reviews and feedback and stuff there, so that's always a way to help the ministry out, as in it especially in local churches, right? You can bring books. I mean, I've got books in bulk that I hand out to people left and right.
Yeah. I'd love to be able to just pass out our books, but even getting them at our cost is just horrendous.
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be nice to get a printing press, but then you get books, and people that sell books don't even make good money. You need to travel around and promote them. You would have to get a camper and drive around, and because of COVID going on still, nobody's, I would imagine if to publicize a book and to travel around the U.S. trying to promote a book at bookstores, this would probably be the worst time ever to do it, COVID. So even if it was something we wanted to do, we couldn't even do it.
So it looks like Alyosha, he's got a suggestion for you. Check out the free version of DaVinci Resolve for editing. World-class software used by the industry.
Huh.
Only limited to. Yeah, let us know, guys. I mean, we love recommendations, suggestions. We've got a wonderful research and development team. I mean it. We got a great research and development team that gives us ideas and recommendations and suggestions on how to improve the channel and the ministry. And we get those monthly, and we do our best to, take those recommendations seriously and implement them. That's why over the course of the last few months, we have taken so many recommendations from people who know a lot about this kind of stuff. And, we've taken them seriously. Like I said, we've got the, our own professional website now that people are being blessed from. People are finding us actually just through the website. So, we love getting the feedback. The feedback's so important. That's why on the website, just go to contact and, send me, anything really that Argatha says.
Oh yeah, Newegg is awesome. That's how I did stuff when I had the PC. But since it's a Mac desktop, I can't do anything with it. Macs are just a nuisance. The Mac desktop is all concealed in itself. You can't even open it. If you did, I'm sure it'd be so different than the regular PC. I think they do it on purpose, Like the newer cars, you open up the hood and it's just one big electronic box. You're like, no, how am I going to do anything with this? The old cars, no problem. Off the hood, fix it anyway.
Right. Jamie Russell says just buy a Xerox machine and use a Polaroid flip book videos. Yeah, yeah, the good old days.
Yeah, that'd be nice if I mean, we've made videos and movies on everything from the global flood to the dinosaurs and man. There was a point where I downloaded that cartoon version to mix in with it, but that was just layering. That's probably what actually burned my computer out. Now that I think about it, I downloaded I purchased this thing to cartoonize this called Toonly, and you make these cartoons, and then you put that cartoon in the iMovie, and you're basically double editing, and you're layering things up, and it was probably just burning it out faster and faster.
So we got a ton of great questions coming in or comments. Jackson Rose says, I'm a liberal atheist, but I'm glad we can all get along. Amen. We've got Jackson coming back on here. I think it's in 2 weeks. He's going to be debating Professor McQueen, the Genesis flood, and Noah's Ark, fact or fiction. That's going to be a ton of fun. I've seen Jackson Rowe discuss that topic in his videos on his channel. So definitely there's going to be some good questions to deal with and to kind of discuss. Jackson debated Kent last week. That was a great show. Matt was there, did a phenomenal job co-moderating. And I think that debate's sitting at 6,000 views or so. So Jackson, we're looking forward to your big round 2 with Kent as well. And there was another comment I seen. Oh yeah. P. Wendy asked, let me see if I can find it. Does the website answer biblical questions? So you'll find on the website answers to hundreds of questions with, yes, some of them being related to the Bible, especially being related to more specifically Christian apologetics, questions that atheists bring up pertaining to God's morality, evidence for Christianity in the Bible itself. But that's another thing I'm working on. I've been having a lot of private talks with Christian apologists, including theologians who we're going to have on the channel. And we're going to be discussing more theology related topics. We're going to be debunking the cults like Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, talking more about the nature of God. So the point is, month by month, we're going to add more and more to the website. And at this point, especially because we have so much science related topics there, we're going to be adding more theology related answers as well. Some of the tough questions. So brother Matt Powell, he says, hey team, getting ready to upload an SFT and YEC vid on Kent Hovind official. I'm pumped. I appreciate that, Matt. Matt Powell's a blessing as well. Kent's a blessing. We've got Kent. I'm working on a couple debates, one really big end times theology debate that we'll leave it at that, but we're hoping in the next couple months we get that booked and have some fun. So Matt, I appreciate that. Matt, as we kind of move along here, did you now want to? So we got a couple of videos prepared. We've gone over, the major focus of this video. But as we kind of monitor the fundraiser here, I just pressed enter. Wow, in just 40 minutes, we've now raised over $1,200. We've got 18 donors, 5 shares, 23 followers. $1,230 in just 40 minutes. So you guys really are a blessing. And I think as we have proven over the last few years, we won't let you down. We won't let you down because we've got so many projects, and Matt and I work probably, what do you think, brother? Probably 12, 13 hours a day, on this ministry, essentially, Creation Evolution.
Yeah, I think the nicest thing to ever happen to me in the last few years is my computer actually breaking and giving me something to do other than edit. I've actually forgot what outside looks like.
You forgot what the sun looks like. I'm sorry to break it to you. The sun's not even there anymore. It's burned up all its fuel. It's gone.
Gone. It's all right. I saw a couple funny questions. Somebody asked if I would fight for 3,000. Yeah, that would have been like really good pay when I started fighting. So yeah, in a heartbeat. How many views does my flood video have? It has 833,000 views now on just my channel. On this channel, probably a couple thousand more.
Yeah. And that's what we're hoping to do with this one as well. We want this one to go viral, guys. Genesis, that we've partnered with Creation Research on. That's going to be the goal for that one. We want that one to go viral as well, just like the flood movie we did that is at 1 million views, like Matt said. And Matt, you did that all on that computer, your editing skills, and we've got one specific project we're working on is months ago we did a 3-hour movie debunking Aaron Ra. The next guy we're going after is Richard Dawkins. So we've been spending a lot of time finding little clips and quotes from Dawkins, right, Matt, as you know. And then we are going to be refuting him thoroughly. Bob, thank you so much. We got a new member. Bob asks, is it pre-trib versus post-trib? Yes. And Matt knows because he moderated these debates with me, or at least one of them. We've now hosted a few end times theology debates. And so far the record, our two biggest shows are the 2 end times theology debates. We had Kent versus Stacy Turbeville on preterism. That was over 400 people live. And then we also had Kent versus CJ. So the debate I'm currently working on, I'm working on getting a big name pre-tribber who will debate Kent. Hopefully that I'm sure will be another good show. So Matt,
those are good.
Did you want to, now that we've kind of talked about the bigger picture here, should we spend some time now? I know we got a couple videos that we have for people. We can make some comments. People might have questions. If anyone in the chat has any questions about creation, evolution, whatever comes to mind, let us know. It's up to you. How do you want to take this from now, Matt?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of ways we can go, but I did upload a video for you just now that people might like. And I think it's how aliens prove young Earth creation. And it's a 2-minute video where you get to listen to Elon Musk, who ran the numbers based on aliens and where are they. And I think that the lack of evidence proves young Earth creation. So I think that would be fun.
Okay, so you've got that uploaded in the...
Correct. Yep.
Okay,
I can just hit the button and start it if you want.
Oh, you have it all good to go?
I uploaded it already for you. Yeah.
Let's do it, brother. Let's do it.
Okay, here we go, everyone. Buckle up.
Where are the aliens? Maybe they're among us. I don't know. Like, if there's so many planets out there and the universe is almost 14 billion years old, why aren't the aliens everywhere? This is one of the most perplexing questions. Where are they? What it suggests is there's this great question. It's called the Fermi paradox. Like, where are the aliens? Like, if there's so many planets out there, and the universe is almost 14 billion years old, why aren't the aliens everywhere? This is one of the most perplexing questions. Because, you could basically bicycle to Alpha Centauri in a few 100,000 years. Like, meaning that's at bicycle speed. So it's sort of like, in 100 billion years, like even at a very slow speed, you could completely blanket the galaxy. So why not? Where are they?
There either are a lot of aliens or none, and either they're equally terrifying.
But I could do some back of the envelope calculations, and any advanced alien civilization that was at all interested in populating the galaxy, even without exceeding the speed of light, even if you're only moving at, say, 10 or 20% of the speed of light, you could populate the entire galaxy in, let's say, 10 million years. Maybe 20 million years max. This is nothing, in the grand scheme of things.
So, where are the aliens? I think it was Carl Sagan that said, like, there either are a lot of aliens or none, and they're equally terrifying. And I want to be clear, like, to the best of my knowledge, if there's no evidence for alien life, there's no direct evidence for alien life. I mean, we have archaeologists going all over the world looking at things. You know, there's this people, like, if we were to find something like, let's say, like a cube of titanium, just like a 1-inch cube of titanium, say in the middle of the pyramid, I'd be like, aliens for sure. There's no way they could have made titanium back then. Now, and the thing is that on a galactic timescale, even with sublight travel, you could absolutely colonize the whole galaxy, even some of the neighboring galaxies. So if you said 1 million years with and say there's no new physics, could you colonize the galaxy in 1 million years? Absolutely, the entire galaxy.
See that? 1 million years, you can colonize the entire galaxy and have evidence for something. By the way, good job, guys. A lot of new members tonight. Another one just popped in.
Wow.
But
yeah, let me give them a shout out. Dirt Bike Action Cams. I appreciate that. And I saw another one.
Yeah,
Heresy Hunter. I appreciate that as well. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. We will not disappoint. We've got some great stuff all ready for you. And another thing too is, so I had a debate a few days ago, and I've been getting a lot of emails in terms of, I guess the more known we get, I don't know, but I've got a lot of people that want to debate me on a number of subjects. In that debate, I'm now starting to kind of count my formal debates. I've now had about, I think that was like the 93rd or 94th. So the point is, on top of everything that we do, you know, it looks like there's quite a few debates I'll personally be doing as well in the next probably 4 months. And debates take time. I mean, debates take a lot of prep. I take them very seriously. So, you know, there's just a lot to look forward to. And put it this way, the fun, the fun never ends. Matt, if I could say one thing about that video, and then we'll get some comments in the chat too. And also for you, Kevin Blah, good to see you, brother. I appreciate you being a member. We're going to be doing a lot more open mics. We had an open mic last week. I think we went for about 4 or 5 hours. We had a panel of 10 discussing all things soteriology. So, you know, we'll be having more open mics too for people. But about that video, Matt, I find it funny because you're right. You know, the numbers aren't there. No evidence for, you know, intelligent life anywhere else in the universe other than Earth. And that's a prediction we can make based off the biblical creation model of ancestry starting point. The Bible claims to be the history book of the universe. The Bible says Adam is the first man. Eve's the mother of all living. Okay. We know that there was a flood bottleneck of 8 people that repopulated this planet. We know there was the Tower of Babel, where we had people groups then migrating to all parts of the world. I mean, we have the history of humanity in the Bible, which claims to be the word of God. Holy men spake as they were moved by the Holy Ghost. So we would predict, no, you're not going to find evidence for alien life anywhere else in the universe. You're not going to find it. And guess what? We're not finding it, right? It's not matching up. What the Bible says about human history is exactly what we find to be true in terms of history, archaeology, science. Yeah, what are your thoughts on the video, Matt?
Yeah, what I find interesting is if you look at it from the perspective of evolution, our galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, and Earth itself is new. It's really fairly new. So that means every other place is old. It only makes sense. So then at the end of evolution, you have humanity, and we only arose in 200,000 years. And only in the last 5,000 have we really populated the earth and invented agriculture and gotten to the point where we had technology. And literally, 100 years ago, our grandparents were going to the bathroom in an outhouse. So in 100 years, we accomplished all this where we can get to the stars. So that, you mean to tell me that other galaxies haven't gone through this 1,000 times over, and we wouldn't have evidence everywhere? Of course we would. So he's right. This is why it's the most confusing paradox that there is to them. Where is this life? Where is this example of extraterrestrials? Where are they? How come everything's so silent? How come there's no evidence for anything? If there really was an example, then we would see it, and we just don't. So I think the lack of evidence for aliens proves young Earth creation because of the mere fact that there is not enough time. So even if there was life somewhere else on the other side, they're like us. God would have created them. Everything's fairly young. We're just now reaching the stars. So
amen. Well said. Well said. Iron Matt, a member of this channel, says, my Devolution t-shirt at a church fall festival tonight, he wore it, was a conversation starter, and many will be checking out the channel. I appreciate that.
nice.
That I've noticed significantly about the t-shirts that we've put on, especially especially the Pawn Scum to People Evolution shirt. You know, just sparking up a general conversation of these things, especially if you're out at a festival, I don't know, at a family's house, friend's house, or whatnot. Iron Matt is right. It is a conversation starter for sure. And here's the thing that I've noticed is, yeah, we battle the most militant atheists and evolutionists online, right, Matt? But the majority of people, especially in your personal life, they're not like that. You know, when I talk with family or skeptical friends or meet new people about this, usually it only takes me 20, 30 minutes of conversation to get them to kind of realize and admit, like, wow, yeah, naturalistic origins is kind of silly. Naturalistic evolution is pretty ridiculous, because most people aren't like just the militant evolutionists that we battle on the internet, like the Aaron Ross, Matt Dillahunty's, Pelagias of the world. So that's at least what I've known. Have you noticed the same thing, Matt?
Yeah, and you will notice that they're highly hyper aggressive and talk a lot of trash in the comment section, but no one will do that to your face either. You know what I mean? You can say highly offensive things, and they would never even dare do anything. But in the comment section, everybody's really hyper aggressive and mean. So it makes you kind of like lash out. So take Kent, for example. He's been doing this, let's say, I don't know, 40 times longer than us. So, you know, he's out there, he's got a little mallet, he's whacking these atheists, and they're like, oh, this guy, I hate him. You know, he's so mean. And I'm thinking, man, you made him mean. He's the reason he acts like this. He's had his bank accounts hacked. He's had death threats. He's had things mailed to him. I mean, come on.
Great point.
That's not going to have an effect on you.
And we're moderators in his chat. And I mean, I don't think we got to tell everybody how many atheist comments come in there daily. Also on our channel of just, you know, hate, scoffing, ridicule. Yeah, you know, they're very militant.
And it's not even like they go, well, look at the Ken's argument right here. It falls apart because what he's saying doesn't match up to this. No, they're like, when's he going to jail? Oh, you know, it's like, what?
Right. Ad hominems, red herrings. And then even with like your most militant, I guess you could say, or adamant evolutionists online, like our good friend Andrew Cumming here, right? Where he would point out, what does he say here? He talks to people from one point of view without showing the massive amount of evidence, apparently, for the fact, according to them, that banana plants and whales are related, that is said to be in support of evolution. Gee, I wonder why they're so convinced. And what's funny is, even your most adamant or militant evolutionists, like Andrew Cumming here, the Dr. Dan Stern Cardinals of the world, your Aaron Ross, they actually don't have any answers to the arguments that we put forth pertaining to biblical creation, separate ancestry. I mean, how many times have we gone into it with these evolutionists, Matt, on the genetic related data that we have that shows us we came from just two people? And this genetic data is nothing like the Y chromosome mitochondrial DNA data is nothing like the chimpanzees. It really shows that humans were specially created and separate from any other form of life. But I mean, you know, we don't want to get into that too much because, Matt, I do want to point out a few weeks ago, we did like, what was that? 4 or 5 hour. I mean, that was a marathon. We did a response to that PBS Eon video about like, the two people who we've all descended from. We put out a number of challenges in that video. Actually, that video is getting a lot of good feedback. It's been weeks
on that same one, but like an 8-minute version, huh?
Yeah,
because that was good.
That was good.
A lot of people think that video is like really good for evolution.
Yeah. And the reason we did it for 4 or 5 hours is because we wanted to be thorough, and we wanted to address any possible rebuttal, any possible objection these atheist evolutionists could put forth. So I definitely recommend watching that. I mean, I've had several debates with some knowledgeable evolutionists, and they haven't actually rebutted these points. So yeah, the evidence is there. People have seen both sides, and guess what, Andrew? They've made up their mind. Okay, the evidence for universal ancestry is not there. Doki Doki says PBS is out of their league. Yes. Yeah, that would be. I'd love to see their response to some of those arguments. Let me share screen real quick, and because we've had a lot of questions come in specifically about the content on the website. So let me see here real quick. I'm going to do this real quick, man, and then I'm going to have you do a real quick recap of the campaign, because now we've got 70 people in the chat, which means there might be new people here. So website's constantly being updated, guys. So definitely check it out. What I want to do, especially for newcomers, okay, is right on the main page. Okay, you'll find answering common questions, refuting arguments. Okay, this is just a very small example of the things we address, but at least it's right on the main page, and there's a good diversity, I would say, of topics here. Okay, endogenous retroviruses, limestone, does young Earth creation require hyperevolution, carbon dating, mammal-like reptiles, pseudogenes, a little bit of everything, distant starlight. Nested hierarchies. Is the New Testament reliable? Soteriology, a little bit about everything. What I like to do is kind of share some examples of our past main events. Matt Slick versus Dr. Shabir Ali. That was an epic debate. That really helped us as well. Helped a lot of people on the more so theology side of things find us. This was epic. We partnered with a panel of PhD scientists on the origin of life. This was a few months ago for anybody interested there. Example of some of the debates that we've held. So go through there, but you can, where is it? Click here for more answers. So this will take you to, I believe it's the resources section. Here's some of the YouTube channels we're partnered with as well, the Standing for Truth channels, including Young Earth Creation, Logical, Plausible, Probable, Redefined Living, so on and so forth. This will take you right to our new book, The Genesis Flood, Global or Local Flood, answering more challenges, refuting more arguments. So, endless content for you guys. The video section is really where it's at. Go to the video section. Tons of categories. I'm always adding new categories as well. Trinity debates, soteriology debates in general, and then of course dozens of videos per category: ancestry, refuting arguments for evolution and an old Earth, origin of life, radiometric dating. So yeah, to the people in the chat who have asked questions pertaining to the website, yeah, we're doing our best to provide you pretty much answers to all possible challenges and arguments, and also updating the event section. So this section should be updated in the next couple days, actually. And we are working on several new books, one of them the Human Evolution Handbook. So stay tuned for that in the next couple months as well. Matt, if you wanted to do a brief recap, brother, over the campaign itself, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for those of you that are now tuned in that missed earlier, basically we have the campaign for a GoFundMe that's based on trying to get another computer that I use for all the editing of the videos that come out. So basically looking for something to replace the old one, because the old one wasn't necessarily even made for doing what I was doing. I just did it anyway. And it's also probably the reason I broke it, is because it wasn't made for it. So this time I'm getting something directly made for editing this time. And that's it. I hate to be the one to blame myself for creating the computer problem that I have, but I really probably just overworked it. We have I think if we go to our channel, I would say, how many thousands of videos do we have? I would say I've edited, the edited ones are probably over 1,000. There was a day where it was a while there, I pumped out 2 a day, and that was probably what really was the beginning of the end.
Well, especially when we first started, Matt, because we had, I mean, it was overwhelming how many ideas we had when we're just getting started. We only had a few videos, but there was just hundreds of arguments out there.
Yeah.
From the other side that we wanted to deal with. Massive amounts of arguments on our side we wanted to show the world. So you're right. I mean, it was like multiple I mean, there were times where we'd put out so many videos in one day that I think it was you who warned me. I think some of these videos aren't showing up for people because I think YouTube, has a limit in terms of videos that it'll notify people. But you saying that, Matt, because we go back a few years and we have 1,200 videos roughly. What I recommend to people, okay, me and Matt did this the other day. Go to the popular upload section, okay, and you'll find a lot of videos. I think that you would be surprised, especially people new to the ministry, that we've done over the last few years that would interest you in watching. For one, we did this video, Joe Rogan, overwhelmed by evidence for worldwide flood. That was awesome. We still get comments for that daily. Dr. John Sanford lecture at NIH. I uploaded that 2 years ago. Fascinating, irrefutable lecture. That one's doing very, very well. 8,000 subscribers. So go through here. It's so funny how somebody earlier was saying Kent Hovind brings the numbers, right? And it really is true. I mean, if you actually look at the popular upload section, end times debate, Dr. Hovind, Big Bang cosmology debate, Kent.
Wow, mine's on there with the phylogeny challenge. The very first video I ever did on it.
That was one of the first videos. And then we did like a whole we did a huge series on that too, actually.
Yeah. That the first video I watched with Aaron Raw was some of his flood video that my friend introduced me to. And then I went to his comment section and I left something going, how do you think human language evolved? And he just said it evolved slowly over time from man copying and mimicking the sounds of nature. And that's called the Bow Wow theory. And I was like, what? That's not even a very good theory. I mean, it's their top one out of all 7. So I understand why he chose that one. But if you look at linguistics and you study it, he started saying things that were ridiculous. He says animals have language. They don't have language. No person that studies language would say animals have language. He started to say, well, they make sounds. There's a monkey can make a different sound for a snake that it would for a human when they're in danger. It's like, these are sounds. These aren't talking. This is not speech. This isn't grammar. This is sounds that they're making. So that's what really got me into it. And that's why one of my first videos against him was on human language, because human language can't arise on its own. And they've tried it. They've experimented with this. So if you guys are unaware of what I'm talking about, it's they've taken, over the last 350 years, they've taken kids that were either stolen by animals or neglected entirely. These are called feral children, and feral children don't have the capacity to learn language, and they wondered why that was. And they've discovered that unless a child is acquainted with language before the age of puberty, which is usually 13, then they can never learn language after that. It's called language acquisition 1. They have to have it under the age of 13. If they don't have it, they can never acquire language after that. So what that means is it would take somebody under the age of 13 to create the first language to begin with, and they would have had to have taught everybody else also under the age of 13 for language to ever exist in the population to begin with. Then they think like, well, no, the language evolved all at the same time, multiple places in the world. Well, now they've just compounded that issue because they can't even teach a feral child to do it one time in the last 350 years. The stochastic models on the thing are just horrendously against what they're saying. If people were really copying the sounds of animals as well, there would be evidence in that in the linguistics and going back through history and seeing how language slowly evolved like that. And we don't see that. We see like one of the most advanced linguistic systems ever written, and then we see that we take that and it breaks down from that point. Like you go back to Paleo Hebrew, then you go to Aramaic, and then you go to Greek, and then you go to all the way down to modern day English. So we've been borrowing it from the start. And you go backwards in time. You don't just have some guy just took a little piece of a stick and wrote a straight line and that was the word. No, it was like a mathematical, pictorial, linguistic, everything all rolled into one. Language is fascinating, and when you start to look at it from that perspective and think what our ancestors actually knew and what they did with it, you would be absolutely amazed. We didn't grunt it into existence. That's nonsensical. So that was why my first video on R and Raw was language.
Yeah, I remember that video. And actually, Matt, for the Biblical Creation Basic series that we're doing, I think language would be a great topic to do soon. And also epigenetics was one that we've done a lot of videos on, but would make a good Biblical Creation Basics. Actually, as I've said, this is a team effort. I mean, we've got 100 ideas for our Biblical Creation Basics series, guys. So if you guys have ideas, I mean, certain topics, arguments you want us to address, let us know. Email us, get in touch with us. We love to hear your thoughts. And just kind of hear from you what you want us to focus on. Matt, remember this video? This one's only 15 seconds, but this one is, this one cracks me up. We took this clip. This was from a debate, you remember, between Ken Hovind and I can't remember the guy's name yet anymore, but the debate was, is there evidence for abiogenesis or, whatever, something about the origin of life. So, the one guy, the atheist would be in the affirmative, right? Where did life come from kind of thing?
Right.
Give us your best evidence. So let's play this really short 15-second clip. The shortest creation versus abiogenesis debate in recorded history.
How did life get started?
I don't know.
Then why are you debating?
Tonight we're debating where did how did here we go. How did life get started? Or what's the best explanation for life? The atheist? I don't know. Call it a day, boys. Call it a day. Just a lot of guessing, a lot of storytelling, right? Yeah, that was too funny.
He didn't even attempt to represent his side. At least some people go, well, the RNA world hypothesis or something. Right. He's like, oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
What the heck are you here for?
He prepared a year for that very, very convincing answer. So, when you scroll through these, you're gonna find a lot of kind of classic videos that we've done. I mean, many times I find one and I just think, oh yeah, this is let's see this one right here.
Saying a dog never produces a non-dog. I'm sorry, that's always been wrong. That's always been a straw man. That has never been a correct criticism of evolution. That has been a description of an evolutionary law which you have failed to understand lo these decades.
No, I think I completely understand it. Dogs always
just demonstrate it other
and we'll
announce it again.
Let me get it.
I will say it again. You haven't understood it in 20 years, but dogs do always produce dogs. Do you know of an exception to that?
Because of the evolutionary law of monophyly, that is true. And dogs remain conoidean carnivores. They never became a non-carnivore when they produced the first dogs. Still a carnivore. Still a member of every one of its parental cage. Same thing with cats. Phalloidean carnivores are still carnivores. Dogs, cats, both carnivores.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Are pine trees carnivores?
Because carnivora is limited to a subset of mammals and trees are not even animals, no.
But you think elephants and pine trees and dogs are related?
Still eukaryotes, yes.
So, but at some point they became carnivores. Something happened.
Yes, that's correct. And I've got a series of videos explaining the evolutionary stages of that. If anybody listening to this cares, it's called The Systematic Classification of Life, where I go through some of the major clades. We're up to episode 24, and we've just now gotten to mammals. So there's another dozen or so videos in that series at least to come.
That ought to be exciting. Okay, so pine trees and elephants and dogs are related. At some point, the ancestor of whatever that ancestor looked like, diversified. And obviously, elephants and dogs and pine trees look different today and behave differently and are now in certainly different species. I would assume different families. And,
I like the way he goes, that ought to be exciting.
Yeah.
Show me the origins of these major forms and groups of life. I've got, a 200-hour series as my answer. That ought to be exciting. So
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
I know. It's Ken always has that good rhetoric. You know what I mean? And that's what makes him good at debating too. You got to have a little bit of comedy. You can't just be
right
all the time so serious. And that's what makes some of these like really good scientists not even like good. That's probably why they don't even like to debate, right? They just get in there and they're just sitting in the chair waiting to be asked a question. It's just like, oh, well, let's do this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to debate, I mean, you got to be on the offense. You're right. I mean, a little bit of rhetoric is good. I mean, a debate's a battle. Yeah, you're right. Great point.
By the way, his Systematic Classification of Life series, I broke that down and we made a video. Remember, I refuted his favorite series. It's in one video, and it's literally called Debunking the Falsification Classification of Life series. I think I'll pull it up because I can't find anything on your channel. There's too many videos.
Oh, you want to pull it up right now? Yeah.
No, I would just want to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Systematic Classification of Life series falsified. Has a picture of Aaron Raw, and it's 21 minutes and 44 seconds. So that one's nice and small. Oh,
I was gonna ask you earlier on that aliens video, Matt, and you're great at answering this, and I appreciate the super chat, Neff. I will check my email. We'll check our emails. I used to, before I got converted, before I got saved, and especially before I became a young Earth creationist, I was big into ancient aliens. You can talk to my brother specifically, who got saved before me, became a young Earth creationist before me, and we used to battle it out for hours. I would look to a lot of ancient alien theories almost as explanations for a lot of what we see, especially in terms of history, right? Especially with the Egyptians and just the things that ancient civilizations did and built. And, there's so much evidence that man was actually very intelligent in the past, right? And yeah, we have an accumulation of knowledge, right? We're standing on the shoulders of giants before us. But where that accumulation of knowledge started in historical civilizations, I mean, these people were geniuses. So, there was a time where I fell for the ancient alien idea. But Matt, my question is, why does, and this is what I ended up realizing, and this was like a light bulb going off. This was a reason why I became enlightened to the truth. Why does the biblical creation model better explain the ancient civilizations, what the Egyptians built, things like this, the evidence that man was smarter, lived longer? Why does biblical creation better explain that than ancient aliens?
I think what happens is ancient aliens came in at a time when people were just like, the evolution thing is just kind of ridiculous. I would rather believe that aliens did this than the evolutionary theory, because it just doesn't make any sense, right? So they're just appealing to the aliens. But if they were to see what our model actually says, they would actually agree and concur with, well, that is kind of like the cradle of civilization, where people would have been going out Babel. There, all the knowledge would have been condensed right in that general vicinity, and dispersion would have happened from there. So where would people have been mostly? Well, right around in Egypt, right around where you would have been being able to build these massive structures. And what would they have had? Well, when you get a bunch of people together, 2 heads is better than 1. Well, 4 is better than 2, 8 is better than 4. So eventually you get a lot of people. That's a lot of manual labor. You don't really have the natural technology because it was wiped out, right? So you're alive, you're living for a long time. You have groups of people all together that can put their minds together to build something that if you think about it, is extremely hard to do. There's no reason they needed to build a pyramid that size. They chose to do it. And that's a really confusing thing to think about, because you're talking about building a megalithic structure out of material that's extremely hard to move and hard to construct. And then when we look at the first pyramids, like the step pyramids, what do we find? That they actually poured these stones to make them. They literally made a type of a concrete for the very first pyramid. And they made the pyramid wrong, but they still made it. And then they learned how to make it. But what I mean by wrong is they didn't build on the basement rock. They moved some sand down, and then they built it on the sand. And the weight, when they built it flat, kind of imploded. The pyramid kind of collapsed in on itself. So it kind of broke because it was like almost like a trial and error. They didn't know how much weight they could stack up, but the numbers were still there. So they just tried again and built a bigger one without any problems. And it still stands to this day, one of the great pyramids of Giza, right? So it wasn't the first one, but their trials up to that point, you can see that they literally had technology to make stone by pouring it. Like, where in the world did they come up with this idea? And then they were able to cut things, and they were able to bore holes through types of stone. They originally thought ancient aliens came along and they said, well, how could they even move these things? How can they move these stones? And how can they lift them into place and do all these things? These rocks are coming from a place that's extremely far away, and it just doesn't make sense. So they appealed to the alien theory because it makes more sense than saying, well, man was smarter, lived longer, had some form of technology to do this. I'm not talking about technology like a cell phone or a spaceship to fly it over. We're just talking about a general sense of the ability that they had to write down and had math and had the skill to build boats and to quarry stone and to move it and lift it into place. These things were already available to them because they had knowledge already. Somebody handed knowledge down. There's no doubt about that. So you're already going to be able to build a city right after the flood. They're going to be able to do that. They're going to be able to be like, we need to rebuild civilization. That's what people like. It's what's convenient. You don't just go, well, I guess I'm going to give it up. So what evolution did, and ancient alien theory, is they go, well, I guess mankind didn't do anything for a really long period of time. And then all of a sudden, worldwide, we all learned the same thing, kind of like we all invented farming, and then the farming allowed us to grow in populations, and then that populations allowed us to boom with more knowledge. And ancient aliens said, well, aliens must have came here and taken the genetics from a primate and mixed it with their genetics, and it created a hybrid, and that hybrid is a human being. And that explains why we have the genetics of a primate, but not entirely. And it explains why our cognition is so much higher than a primate. Because when you compare a primate to a bird, birds outscore chimps. Then how come we're so much smarter than birds and chimps? It doesn't, you can't go up the chart and say a bird that has a brain the size of your pinky nail is smarter than a chimpanzee. How is that working? That's not really evolutionary correct, right? So they said, well, aliens must have done this. So they invented the idea that aliens came down and they gave us ideas on how to do things with technology. They said, you are going to farm the gold that we need for our civilization. And while you're doing this, we're going to teach you how to mine these things. We're going to give you technology that we use ourselves. Not all of it, because you're our slave, of course. And then once we mined all of the gold, they left us here. There was no need for us anymore. We were the slave creature that they created. So they bailed and they left us with remnants of their technology, which were the Great Pyramids, which they forced us to build. That's the ancient alien theory, which I think is Zachariah Sitchin's Earth Chronicles, which he came up with, which he says came from the Sumerian texts, but I don't read Sumerian, but I highly doubt that's in there. Anyway, it's just something that they've come up with to deal with the problem of how in the world did ancient man have technology, knowledge, math, linguistics, all these things in this part of the world when they should not have had it. It doesn't even make sense. Mankind's been living in Africa, and they don't have any of these things. They don't have they don't have agriculture. They don't have megalithic structures. They don't have writing systems. They don't have mathematics. They don't have any of these things that go back before any of these older cultures far north of them. So what's happened? Why is everything in reverse? Our model, it makes sense. That's exactly what was supposed to happen after the ark landed. humanity started to grow, by the 8th generation, they accumulated into one region to build the Tower of Babel, which was up right in northern Egypt. And they started building massive towers. And guess what? Confounding of language, man spread out from there, not from Africa. That's why we don't see it down in Africa. We see what inherited to Ham's line. Ham inherited Africa, so only his lineage went there, and they would have went there with the only writing systems and knowledge that they had at the time. And Africa was a tropical, lush place, so they survived really well, but they also got locked in there because after the flood, we have to remember that desertification started to occur, and it occurred rapidly. So it swept over and created the Sahara Desert, landlocking Ham's line in Africa, so they couldn't leave anymore. So they were trapped, and you're not doing a lot of farming there because you have animals that are going to inhibit that. You are also going to have a harsher conditions for living because animals there are also migrated and are much more violent as well. So the things match more our model than they would evolutionary model, and which is funny because ours is all written down. We can't change it. We can't just go, it's okay, we found evidence over here that man's there, it's okay, we'll just move it and say that that's where it is until we find other evidence. They scramble all the time because they keep changing their minds and everything, right? They keep falsifying their own theory, so they can change it whenever they want. We're stuck with whatever scripture says, so our model's already written down for us. So when we go, let's look for evidence and see if there actually was this breaking up of languages. How many languages were there when it was broken up? Well, scripture actually tells us. What do we see when we follow linguistic families back? Exactly that amount. So pretty fascinating.
Some good comments here. Hurricane Havoc says, I lean young, but I'm open to the idea that it might be even younger. I think there were probably a dozen old Earth creationists in the chat that were like excited, right? Like, oh, here we go. We're going to win one over to the team. Sorry, old Earthers. And then Jamie Russell said, and now we see the most ancient structures are more similar and more advanced. Great point. Which shows a common ability after Babel with slow divergence and decline in building tech. Exactly. So much common knowledge, right? All these civilizations, that which they have built in terms of structures, language, even genetics, right? We talk about allele frequency, so on and so forth. They all trace back to a common origin, a common source, which is Babel. I mean, there's so much evidence for the Tower of Babel. And also Jackson Rowe. Let me see. I'm trying to look for his comment here. He had a debate with Kent a week ago, I guess, last Thursday on human evolution. Fantastic debate, really, really good. A lot of great feedback. And I thought Jackson Rowe made some interesting points in his opening. So I asked Jackson, maybe just for tonight as we're running this fundraiser, guys, we're kind of just going with the flow here, right? We didn't really plan too much. That's why just ideas are coming to our head, what to talk about, answering your questions, so on and so forth. Consider it just a big team get together, a big hangout with all of us. And I thought maybe it'd be interesting to review some of Jackson Rowe's opening there. We've really come to like Jackson. He's a great guy, good friend of ours. And I appreciate his cordial, respectful way of discussing these issues. And although we disagree respectfully. And he has now been on the channel for a number of debates, including a couple more in the future. One with Professor McQueen, another one with Kent, round 2 with Kent. So Jackson, he's a great guy, very respectful. Check out his channel. So Matt, maybe we will review some of that. Just kind of get some thoughts on the spot would be interesting. And also, I do have a video. Dr. Rob Carter, who's a blessing as well. He's we've interviewed him a year and a half ago. He put out a good series about, I mean, we've been debating the critics so much lately, Matt, about like the number of species on the planet, what better explains the number of species, the old Earth model, the young Earth model. So he actually put out a good series recently, series of videos on design diversity that I thought would be fun to review as well. But You know what? Before we do any of that, though, Matt, again, we've got 70 people in the chat. We've now raised, you guys are a blessing. You guys are awesome. God bless you. We're now at $1,500 in just an hour and 21 minutes. So you guys are awesome. We appreciate it so much. God bless you. It's truly awesome. So why don't you give a rundown again, Matt, now that it's been about 20 minutes, just a quick overview of the campaign, what we're here tonight to accomplish.
Sure. I threw a question up for you too after, so that one looked interesting. But yeah, for anybody that's tuned in now recently, basically we started a campaign because my computer is toast. It literally, I kind of melted the graphics card, probably the motherboard. It burned out the fuses, so I was overrunning it too much. I make all the videos. I do all the edits for the Standing for Truth channel, and including other channels as well, which is still shocking. But I mostly am trying to get a computer that's designed specifically for editing, and mine isn't for that. So it's probably the reason I burned it out. I literally just ran it too much, a little too hard. Making too many videos, too long of videos, and not giving it any rest. I'd take it and I'd just put it to sleep at night so I could come out in the morning and start up again like a maniac, right? I don't even want to just power it down like a normal person. So I've learned some things having doing this, and I really kind of hurt my computer. But hey, it lasted 4 years. Look at all the good that's come out of it. Look at all the videos we have. So I just want to keep going with it and have something specifically designed for making videos. And that's what this campaign is about. So.
Amen. Well said. Well said. Lots of great feedback, comments in the chat. I appreciate the kind words from all of you. Without you, we wouldn't be where we are today. I mean, it's about the supporters. The fact that you guys like the content is why we can do this full time. Crazy Eyed Me says, love the free talk. You YECs are so respectful and considerate. I've talked to many people from many places. You guys are super admirable. I appreciate those kind words. And the question from Truth is Beautiful. Will you ever be debating Muslims on 90-foot tall Adam? Muhammad said in Hadith that Adam was 90 feet. That's it, eh? And people have been decreasing in size. The real giant. Yeah, that I could imagine. Yeah, that'd be an interesting debate. Standing for truth versus whoever holds that position. Was Adam 90 feet tall? That would probably be a pretty easy debate to win, eh, Matt? But
easy. It would be the same thing. They just got the cubit size wrong because they were using the sexagesmal system, which is base 60. So they got the numbers wrong. The same reason that the Book of Enoch also has a sexagesmal system added to it, because it was written in a region of the world where they used a different mathematical system. So it's the reason that he's not 90 feet tall. Because they were counting the numbers completely different. They were counting cubit size instead of the actual rounding down. So
90 feet tall.
Easy. Matt, what would a 90-foot tall person eat? Think about it. It's like a blue whale. You get 20 of those people walking around. What you're taller than pine trees, an entire pine tree. Think about how much you eat in a day as somebody your size. Now imagine adding 80 feet to you.
Man, well, as Heresy Hunter says, I don't think it's insane to think that our ancestors were considerably stronger, faster, smarter, and taller than us. For sure.
No,
for sure. Not 90 feet tall, but definitely a lot taller, superior genetics, less mutation accumulation, a better environment. So many reasons and so many considerations as to why man in the past was bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, right? While evolutionists would say, we're actually getting stronger, bigger, faster, smarter, when it's actually the opposite of what we're seeing is devolution and not evolution. So,
right.
Very true.
Yeah, I agree. It's like, I don't disagree that they were much bigger, faster, and stronger. There's no doubt. But 90 feet, I mean, I guess dinosaurs could be 90 feet. What are they eating? They're just walking around eating grass. I guess that's a possibility. It just seems ridiculous. A human, we would need evidence on that one.
Well, it looks like I mean, this is amazing, guys. We've already reached the halfway point. You guys are awesome. You guys are doing great. This is very encouraging and motivating as well, because of all the projects we have in the future. It really is, and I think I can speak for the both of us, encouraging to know just how passionate our supporters are, because we're incredibly passionate about these topics, and that's why we have set our eyes on them, and we spend hours and hours a day trying to give you the best content, and also just studying and learning new things, and for the glory of God, of course, is what this is. So Matt, unless you have anything to say there, brother, we are at the halfway point of this campaign. So again, thank you so much, everybody. Did you want to? I think it'd be fun to. I'm going to play this one at 1.5 times speed, maybe. Stop it every now and again and kind of give our points and thoughts. What do you think, Matt? Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. I'll be looking at the chat from the phone, guys, just to make sure everything's going smoothly. Let me know the audio has worked. Now, I'll say this. We've done a ton of videos refuting the critics on their speciation related claims, right? And actually, we just put out a Biblical Creation Basics episode titled Created Heterozygosity, where we talked about how there's two major differences, okay? You have the evolutionary model, the young earth creation model, in terms of explaining genetic variation, all right? And the massive difference between both models actually has incredible ramifications in terms of explaining the origin of species and the origin of new traits, okay? Because we pointed out many times that evolutionists explain the vast majority or even all genetic variation as being the result of mutations over time, right? They need millions of years to build up the mutations, okay? And therefore, that's building up the variation, because a mutation is adding something that was not previously there. So it's adding diversity. Now, we would point out that obviously this type of diversity is negative or deleterious diversity. And what I mean by that is it's the kind of diversity that you add to your car when you park it too close to another car at the grocery store and somebody bangs their door into your car, creating a dent, right? The type of variation you get from mutations, for the most part, is akin to the rust spots on your car, the scratches, the dings, the dents. While we would say that your beneficial variation was front-loaded, okay? So the young earth creationists and intelligent design advocates, many of them as well, we look to the majority of genetic variation, at least especially nuclear genetic variation, nuclear heterozygosity, as being front-loaded and designed. Okay, so here's the point. If the DNA differences in the genetic variation is front-loaded and built in from the start, then no, you don't need millions of years to build up mutations. If we needed mutations as the source for genetic variation, then yeah, of course, you're going to need millions of years to build up mutations, right? Logically. But if your main source of genetic variation is design variation, then guess what? In a single generation, you can get incredible change simply through genetic processes like recombination. In sexually reproducing organisms, every generation you have recombination, scrambling up of these genetic variants. So these built-in alternatives, let's use Adam and Eve, they'd be scrambled up over time, leading to new traits, leading to new novel variation. That was front-loaded in the first place. So it's not novel and meaningful in the sense that the evolutionist needs new, novel, and meaningful information to take a fish to fishermen, ponds come to people. No, this variation's front-loaded. It's built in, right? It's being revealed over time. So you can get incredible variation in just a single generation if that variation is front-loaded. So we've explained that very thoroughly in videos, debates, so on and so forth. So I'd like to go through this video, and I like the title of it, Species Were Designed to Change. It's as simple as that. God said, be fruitful and multiply. Did he want that to be carried out through cloning? Of course not. Of course not. Built-in genetic variation makes sense scientifically and theologically. And God obviously did not create species fixed, right? The fixity of species, that's been overturned. So therefore, if God did not create species to be fixed, then obviously their genomes wouldn't be fixed or static, right? Ever-changing environments require ever-changing genomes, as we've pointed out. So, Matt, I'd love to get your thoughts as well on some of these points. So let me play it for a bit, brother, and then, make some comments. Here we go.
The ground every year, basically, they'd flame all the underbrush. And so there's all these open canopies. Unlike here, there's tons of underbrush. And then when the Europeans started arriving, diseases decimated the native population and their numbers plummeted and the forest changed. And then when the Europeans started pushing inland, here I'm several hundred miles from the coast in this location, by the time they got here, it was a couple of hundred years after the Native American population had gone down, the forest had changed again. Very few things in this world stay the same. And I want to use that as a lead into my main topic, and that is
Oh, before I forget, I just wanted to thank our new member. One God is now here. Welcome to New Heavens and New Earth. Awesome. I appreciate that. One God is now here. Just looking at the comments too. I'll be monitoring. Sentinel Apologetic says, shall I join the stream? I appreciate you being here as well, Rob. Me, Rob, and Nick Sayers are actually in the midst of negotiating final details in terms of a Bible translation debate, hopefully first thing in December. So that's going to be a ton of fun. But I appreciate the offer and the willingness to discuss these things with us, Rob. Since we're just doing a campaign, tonight we're not opening the mic or anything like that, but we will be doing more open mics. So you and anybody interested are always able to join. We're happy to have you guys join, discuss these things. So here we go. I'll be monitoring the chat from the phone, and let me continue.
God created things to change on purpose. You might have heard that people used to believe that species didn't change, or the fixity of species was an idea really common in the 1700s, 1800s, and before that. Charles Darwin argued directly against that. But one of his main influencers, a lawyer turned geologist named Charles Lyell, he argued that species don't change. Where did he get that idea from? Probably from Aristotle. Lyell also argued for an idea that was very common in the day called centers of creation, in that different groups of animals were created for the environment in which they lived. So when Darwin got to some place like the Galapagos Islands, he saw all these things that were sort of familiar. The same families, the same genera, but the species were different. And he had in his mind at this time, because he wasn't an evolutionist yet, Lyell's centers of creation idea. Okay, let me ask you a question. Is that a biblical concept? Did God create all things as they are today? Did God create things in the place where they are now? The answer is absolutely not. Well, first of all, we know from the flood account that all the land animals spread out from Ararat. They certainly weren't created in place. But second of all, we have an example.
That's a good point. And Matt, what are your thoughts in the fact that, as I mentioned earlier, ever-changing environments requires ever-changing genomes? And that's where epigenetics comes into play too, right? That extra layer of highly complicated and complex genetic information that you have all of these different switches just waiting to be turned on via environment, right? An environmental cue and environmental change, and bam, you can have rapid adaptation. So we know there were massive environmental changes immediately post-flood. So to believe in the fixity of species and the fact that these animals were created for their specific environments would ignore the fact that the environment was incredibly different pre-flood versus post-flood. Matt, can you go a little bit more into that actually?
Sure. I want you guys to picture there was a cat on the ark. Now, what comes into your mind is probably a house cat, but that's much farther down the line. That would be like assuming that a chihuahua would be on the ark when there would be a wolf. So what we would see is something like a wolf being on the ark, and then they get off. Now, what is the world like? Well, to the north, it's very cold, very inhospitable. To the south, you have Australia, which is attached for a little while, and then you have Africa.
Actually, Matt, I'm so sorry to cut you off, brother, but this is just important. So good question from One God is now here. He says, SFT, did you turn off super chat donations? Yes. So for this specific show, for this campaign, we shut off super chat donations because we want the donations to go through the GoFundMe. So actually, I've got it pinned, and Doki Doki SFT fan club, I appreciate that, brother. God bless you. He just posted the link for anybody who would like to support us tonight in this campaign. Therefore, all the donations would go to the GoFundMe and go directly to Matt's new computer, or I should say the ministry's new computer. Yeah, LPP said tonight it's only for the GoFundMe campaign. Let me also give a shout out to brother John Maddox. He's a blessing. He's reaping rewards for the next life. This guy's he's working for the Lord, and he really helped us organize this. LPP's got some great business background. He really is highly knowledgeable and an expert on this, on arranging these things. So, it's been successful. You guys are awesome. And I'd like to thank John and everybody else. Thank John. John's the man. So thank you again, LPP. Now let's Matt, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, John. I don't know where we would be if we did our own campaign. It would be very different. Let's just say that. Thanks. Okay. So basically, you get an animal like a wolf, and it's a species. It was the one that got placed on the ark. All of the other species of that family is now dead from the flood. So you're left whatever genetic potential is in that species of animal from that family. It gets off the ark, and now the world is very different. Like snow in the north, warm in the south. You can go east, it's turning lush and green. You go to the west, you're getting near the ocean. So what happens to animals in a world that's completely diverse and not full at all? Well, you get migration because things are going to be now moving around the world. So you have an animal now that's going to be going into the snow. Well, what happens to coats or fur coats of animals when they go into the snow? Well, they usually turn white. So really quickly, from epigenetics and also from natural selection, you have animals changing rather fast. And this quick adaptation to environment is called punctuated equilibrium. And it happens very quickly, and especially quick if the earth has never been populated before. So you have animals migrating around and adapting very, very quickly. Now, the question that evolutionists have is, what is the genetic limit to this animal? They say that there is no limit. Just give it time and it can change, and it can change very drastically into the point where microevolution becomes macroevolution. Basically, that wolf could possibly turn into a whale over time. We say no, that this genetic limit is based and rooted into every animal that was on the ark is what we can get out of it and nothing else. It can't go any further than that. And a perfect example of that would be the wolf. We've taken the wolf, and the ones that went north were dire wolves. They're gone. They died. They're no longer with us, but we still have the other species from the wolf. And what do we have today? Lots of different breeds of dogs. Now we can breed them as much as we can, and we see the genetic limits to the dogs. Sure, we can get massive Great Danes and we can get small Chihuahuas, but that's the genetic limit that we can get out of them. And believe me, we've tried to do everything we can to dogs. Some people want to carry them in their little purse, and some of them want them to be completely hairless. Some of them want to have horns. They can't do it. Some of them want to glow in the dark. The Asians are working on it. Don't worry. Some of them they're just doing everything they can to change an animal to get anything they can out of it. But yet it has a limit. They do it with racehorses. They do it with bulls. They do it with everything. So we see the genetic limits when we observe speciation by what we do to them in a laboratory and by forced breeding. And we do see that there's limits. And the massive amounts of adaptation would have taken place after the flood because of migration in an empty world with massive amounts of different variety. So we see slower speciation today because, again, everything's like already populated. So we're not going to see punctuated equilibrium everywhere. So
right there's a great point you made, Matt, in that if you have organisms, okay, at creation, including humans, Adam and Eve, being front-loaded with beneficial variation, with design variation, okay, that would be a point of most created heterozygosity, you could say, okay, where you now have the greatest potential for change, adaptation, and speciation. Now, I do want to say, because some young Earth creationists get worried when you say speciation, okay? When we talk about speciation, we're not talking about the type of speciation that is required to take your bacteria-like organism to biologists, okay? People like Aaron Ra, they are kind of desperate and they'll say, well, macroevolution is just change at or above the species level, okay? Well, here's the thing. What we actually see in speciation events is, I just want to check the audience as long, make sure my audio is coming through. I'm not on mute. Okay. What we see genetically, okay, we got the phenotype, the genotype. We should look at the genotype. We should see what's happening on the molecular level with these changes, okay? So when we actually look on the molecular level, we find that there's actually a reduction in allelic variability. Okay, we see shifts, as we've pointed out, in heterozygosity, which is more genetic variation, to homozygosity, which is less. Heterozygosity, a state of DNA diversity. Homozygosity, a state of no DNA diversity, okay? So we have shifts in this, shifts in the hetero to the homo. That's not going to take your fish to fishermen because eventually species reach walls. That's what we see with domesticated animals. That's what we see with dog breeds, for example, Matt, as you were talking about. The Chihuahua has hit a wall. You can't take a population of Chihuahuas, okay, a group of Chihuahuas, and expect to ever artificially select for a wolf. Too many traits have been lost. The allelic variability and potential has been decreased. Okay, so when we do say speciation events, what we're saying is that since most genetic variations front-loaded at the start, all you really need for a new species, okay, this is why it's not difficult for us to explain the amount of species today. All you really need is a breakaway population, a population where a subpopulation breaks off from a parent population. You now have a daughter population that is isolated. They begin to inbreed. They begin to experience shifts in heterozygosity to homozygosity. And eventually you get enough genetic distinctiveness where you can consider them a new species. Okay, migration, isolation, inbreeding, shifts in heterozygosity or homozygosity, you can have a new species. We saw this on the Galapagos Island. This is exactly what we would expect if biblical creation and created heterozygosity were true. And this is actually what we are seeing in terms of new species, okay? So as time goes by, you're going to have more and more shifts in heterozygosity to homozygosity, and therefore a lesser potential to actually change, speciate, and adapt as organisms hit walls, okay? So speciation events right after the flood would have been huge. They would have been massive. They would have been rapid because you have these ever-changing environments. I think that makes a lot of sense. As biblical creationists, we look back to, in time, to the expansion of genetic information, okay? Today, let's say this is the genetic information, the capacity. Take it back 6,000 years ago, you have an expansion of genetic information. The evolutionists, they look back to what, Matt? The contraction of genetic information. They go back billions of years ago to that first single-celled like organism. Before that, they look to non-living chemicals that somehow organized themselves and evolved into the first self-replicating organism, first self-replicating cell. And then you have the evolution of multicellular life and fish, amphibians, reptiles, mammals, birds, so on and so forth, okay? So they require the expansion. Well, we can actually explain most species today simply from the reduction of genetic information. So, Matt, I just wanted to point that out that, yeah, that's a great point. We would expect, right, that speciation events are probably slower today than they would have been in the past.
Right. And if they're slower today, but they're still so fast we can see it, what does that mean? That means it's even worse for evolution going back in time. And it even easier explains our model because Darwin predicted, based on evolution, that there wouldn't be another new finch species for another 3,000 years. Well, guess what? They see them when they document the finch species today. They spend time on the islands. They see them every 3.4 years. That's exactly the opposite of what evolution would expect, because based on his calculations, that would be so rare that you wouldn't see one in your lifetime. We're watching species form in our lifetime. So therefore, without punctuated equilibrium, we can still answer the genetic diversity question of speciation and the species that we see on the world today. See, people think like, how could Noah fit all the species on the ark? One, he didn't. He didn't bring every species of wolf and every species of cat. There didn't need to be. There needed to be one of each. And then rapid diversity after the fact. Now, another problem that people have as well is they say, I don't understand how you can get 2 goats on an ark and have them get off and repopulate the world. Inbreeding is going to kill them. It's going to make them so that they can no longer reproduce, and it's going to do the exact opposite. So now you've got a whole boat full of animals that are going to be inbreeding and killing each other off. And then humans are going to do the same. Humans are going to get out, get off the ark, interbreed, and then populate the whole earth. That's never going to happen. In reality, that's the exact opposite of true. It's exactly what can happen and exactly what we do see. You see, the problem is actually for evolution, because what happens is evolution predicts that you have a small population over long periods of time. Okay, well, you can't do that with inbreeding, because then you have genetic problems, because then horrible mutations reach fixation quickly. But with our model, it's literally 1 generation. So are there any examples of sheep being left someplace, only 2 of them? Yes, there is. There's a perfect example of that. 2 sheep were left on the Mouflon Islands in like the 1980s, I believe, or 1930s. And within 40 years, they were up to 700 on the island. And they had the exact opposite predictions from evolution. And it's exactly what we would expect in our model. And it's exactly what we see. There is no inbreeding problem, because as long as there is an expansion of the population, there can't be inbreeding problems. But yet, if you take that population and you reduce them and you let them stay in that small population without population growth, you have a huge problem. So
great points. There's a couple comments I wanted to go over too, because LPP made me laugh. He said he said, standing for truth is only thanking me because I can blackmail him with the outtakes from creation, the pitch video, which is very true. Matt, you can attest to the fact that last night when we were recording the the video for today, there were quite a few hilarious outtakes, which if our audience is lucky enough, maybe we will compile some of the best outtakes from that recording. They were definitely hilarious. Another good comment comes in here from Terry Tannett. He says, big, fast changes are astronomically impossible when you look at the thousands of new proteins, hundreds of new genes, and many complicated interdependent systems needed simultaneously. Only intelligent design can do that. Exactly. These microevolutionary variations that we see, okay, they can explain these minor adaptive episodes. They can explain what we're talking about here, okay? Natural selection can act upon that front-loaded variation, which can lead to beneficial change, okay? It's more so the sorting out of genetic information that we see. But evolution requires the explanation of novel body plans, phenotypic complexity, real novel genetic functionality, okay? Mostly mutations are functionally compromising, mostly reductive, even the beneficial ones. Most true adaptive episodes turn out to actually be epigenetic related, so that's no help. So that's a very great point. It's these interdependent systems. I mean, the genome has multiple overlapping codes that are chock full of meta information. How did those come about? And this meta information is nested. It's compressed. And that's why we oftentimes point out the fact that this compressed information, if it's decompressed, it can be revealed as new traits, new beneficial traits. But you can't say that this is novel information being added to the genome because these traits are already front loaded, even recombination. Okay. Right. Because if you're created heterozygous, you have these ancestors that are capital A, lowercase a, capital B, lowercase b. You do this throughout the genome, okay, in millions of different spots within the genome. Then all you have is crossover events where you now have what appears to be new information and new traits being revealed that was never there before, when really, no, that capacity for that change, for that trait was already front loaded. Evolutionists have to explain how that which is front loaded came to be in the first place. But we know mutations are deleterious, overwhelmingly deleterious. That's why it's ridiculous to say that the majority of genetic variation is the result of mutations. That's absurd. That's absurd. Our model of created nuclear heterozygosity actually makes predictions on DNA function. And we've shown over and over and over again how those predictions related to DNA function are coming true more and more and more. So that's a great point from Terry. So that being said, I appreciate everybody's comments. Jerome says he's got to run. God bless you. I appreciate that. And okay, let's play a little bit more of this. Matt, great points, brother. Here we go.
In the Bible itself of something changing very rapidly. And I'll point you to a video I did a couple episodes ago here on Biblical Genetics called Jacob's Livestock Breeding Experiment. We saw a dramatic change in a species in the pages of Genesis. The phenotype is the way an organism looks or behaves. And Jacob performed a massive phenotypic change. An important one too. You think how important coat color is to a polar bear or coat color is to a brown bear. You wouldn't want to have a white bear in a forest or a brown bear on the ice. These are adaptive changes, and we saw it happen like that in Scripture. Okay, so we just established that God created things with the capacity to change. How much change is possible? That's the question. How much change can happen in God's created organisms? Well, think of horses. Tall horses, short horses, shaggy horses, short-haired horses. We have brown horses and black horses and pintos and palominos and all these different types of horses. And consider the horses in the fossil record, the horses alive today. We see a lot of diversity just within horses. In essence, God created a tolerance code in the blueprints for the original horse. And he said, I'm going to create this horse, and it's going to be able to be modified and change. And
I really like that. A tolerance code. Matt, what are your thoughts? As Carter's pointing out, a tolerance code in the original created archetype. So you have the, let's say the original created horse kind or horse archetype would have its own tolerance codes where you'd have its own baronome, right? That's what they call it. Your created kinds, your created baramins, they'd also have their baronomes, which would consist of that front-loaded diversity, how much potential to change, including front-loaded DNA elements like retrotransposons, ALU sequences, so on and so forth. Meaning, Matt, each created kind, right? And I would define a created kind, as all organisms that can be traced back to an ancestral genome, right? That can be traced back to a ancestral population that wouldn't be related to anything else. And that initial genome would be different depending on what the kind is. There'd be different tolerance codes, especially because one kind, maybe God created, thousands of variations of it. Right. It's not like God just created 2 dogs, 2 felids, 2 canids, 2 bears, so on and so forth. I mean, God created populations of animals in fully functioning ecosystems. So they'd each have different tolerance codes. What are your thoughts on that, Matt?
Yeah, I would see it as like God would understand the purpose of an animal that he was creating because he knows that they would have a function and a purpose. Evolution, they don't have that, right? They come along and they can go extinct and they can give birth to something different much further down the line, and it doesn't really matter. Birds didn't matter because they didn't exist. Dinosaurs came first. It's like, wait a minute, birds are a complete necessity. So there needs to be different types of birds because there's different functions from these birds. There's like, you can't just get rid of the whale and not have it, because the whales supply half the oxygen that you're breathing today. Because of what they do. That's their purpose. It's their function. You can't just not have them existing. So God created these things and he gave them a purpose and a function. So we see what they're intended to do. And that's why they have that code. That's why they have their limits, because he wanted them to maintain their function and bring forth after their kind. You get rid of horses, you get rid of the function that they're supposed to do for the earth. And that's why they survived, right? Repopulate. You take away birds, you have a huge problem on Earth, because guess who supplies most of the seeds? Guess they do a lot. They do a lot. Matter of fact, if you get rid of birds, plants can't even breathe. Did you know that? Yeah, if you take a scientist one day figured this out. He said I want to know why in the world birds keep waking me up in the morning. What's going on with this? As a scientist, he did an experiment, and he found that the frequency of a bird's chirp opens up the stomata on the bottom of the leaf and allows the plant to breathe oxygen in the morning. And it does this an hour before the sun comes up, and the bird's chirp does this. It's a frequency. So he invented something called sonic bloom, which mimics the sound of bird chirps in a high frequency, and he plays it to the fields of his, and he can grow everything at twice the size of normal and twice the speed. It works on pretty much everything as well. He played it to black walnut trees that usually take 35 years to grow, and he grew them in about 10 to 15 years. And that's impressive because they sell for about $80,000 each. So amazing. He found that without that happening, without the bird frequency, the plant can't even do that simple function. They're symbiotic. So what did plants do before birds? Did they just not live? Did they just not breathe oxygen? What was creating the frequency for them to do that? Obviously, it wasn't there. Dinosaurs were doing this? I don't think so. So pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Neff makes a good point here. He says the number of kinds of a type God created were probably chosen by environments to match them. More bird kinds, fewer cat kinds, dependent upon the ability of each to thrive in a various environments, right? And that's what's interesting is you're going to have oftentimes a greater potential to change and vary in specific created kinds, right? And then another point here, I think I lost it. I think it was from the EXO of the RO does make a good point that natural selection, it's really just a fancy way of describing differential reproduction, right? I mean, who's reproducing the most essentially? I mean, populations of organisms need to keep reproducing and reproducing more in order that eventually they don't die out. And selection is not a creative force either. I mean, let's say you were to take every single dog today, every single dog variation today, and just throw them into Alaska. Okay, it wouldn't be long before all of your husky-like dog variations were the survivors. That trait for the thick fur that can help survivability wise in the Alaska, that's what would be left. Or then you could take all of those dogs and put them into the deserts of Australia, and eventually you'd be left with what? The dingo, really kind of skinny, long legs, not thick fur. That's what could survive in the deserts of Australia. But the point is, these traits are there. But once you lose those traits, I mean, you can hit walls. Once those traits are gone, that's it. So really, yes, natural selection is, and oftentimes people say survival of the fittest. It really is just survival of the luckiest, especially when you have a massive environmental change. Then unfortunately, some of the animals that have traits not sufficient or survivable in that environment will die off. So Doki Doki said, where is Neff? He is here. Yes. Where is good old Neff? He was above somewhere. LPP says Matt's computer has devolved. His GoFundMe campaign needs intelligent agents to build it up. Go back it up now. Yeah. So you know what? As we continue the video, Matt, let me, for anybody new, anybody wondering what's going on tonight, what is this special broadcast, kind of spur of the moment almost? What is this all about? What can we help Team SFT with, and how can we support? How can we support the team? Well, let's give you this quick little. Actually, I don't see it there anymore, Matt. Did you remove it and add in the alien one?
Yeah. Oh, I must have. Yeah, I did. I didn't have room. I didn't have room. You want me to put it back? I can easy.
Oh, that's okay. If you know what, instead, if you want, now that it's been another 20 minutes or so, if you wanted to just give a quick recap of the campaign again. I know you've done that a few times, so I thought, we'll just play the video this time.
I'll put it back after I do it.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, essentially we're live today because we're doing a campaign to try to get a computer that's designed for editing. Basically, the videos on this channel have a lot of edits that go into them. And especially anything that's like a not a debate or an interview, or they're edited videos. Pretty much everything. I don't think we ever just go live and just talk about something. I'm pretty sure we pretty much edit every single video. So my computer was not designed for that, and I overburdened it by doing it too much. So over the last couple years, I've made over 1,000 videos, and my computer just couldn't take it anymore. So we're trying to build funds up so we can get a specifically designed computer made for editing, because that's literally all I do every day. So
pretty well 24/7, unless you're sleeping. I was going to say eating, but no, you eat dinner at the computer editing. So
yeah,
that's good. Okay, yeah, let's keep this party going. Get a little more of this video in. I think this is some great information, especially because this seems to be nowadays, in the top 3 objections, challenges, questions to our model of ancestry. So
size and its coloration to some limit. If you push it beyond that, it's going to die. But there is some degree of morphological adaptability built into that original horse. That is a very creationist idea. Now, interestingly, that takes all the evidence for evolution.
this is very important, and I get into this in great detail in my new book here, the Human Evolution Handbook. And also supporting us, guys, helps us, gives us more time that we can devote to writing these books. We've got several books we want to get out in 2022. So point is, as Dr. Carter pointed out here, is we see built into the original created archetypes, created kinds, is the potential for a significant amount of morphological variation, morphological adaptability. Okay, so when we see these morphological changes, the problem that the evolutionists have, those that want to look to every change as being evidence or an example of that type of change required to take a fish to fisherman, when you actually look on the genotypic level, on the molecular level, as I've been pointing out, you actually see that oftentimes it's either reductive, functionally compromising, or the result of an epigenetic change, epigenetic regulation. You have a gene that turns on, that gene was already present. How did that gene get there in the first place, right? That's why front-loaded diversity makes the most sense. Even the redundancy that we see in the genome, highly, highly beneficial. Anybody who is a computer designer and understands computer code, they see redundancy as a good thing. It's a good design. So the fact that organisms have built-in redundancy, every single day we're hit with radiation, we're hit with sun rays. That's damaging cells, damaging DNA. But we have these DNA repair enzymes that are constantly at work repairing DNA on a daily basis. We have redundancy, backup code. It's like a spare tire in a car. Okay. Yeah. When you're driving around, it's not useful in the moment, but if you get a flat tire, then it's going to become useful. Thank God you have that spare tire. That's what we see in the genome as well. That spare tire is put in the back of a car for the chance that something will happen that you'll need it. It's the result of forward thinking, and forward thinking always points us back to a forward thinker. So the front loading that we see in the genome, retrotransposons, redundancy, epigenetics, you name it. This is all evidence for a forward thinker.
Even ERVs.
We
can't live without them.
Can't live without them. Can't live without them. Amen. Great point. Okay, let's keep going here.
Evolution and puts it on the creation side. At least it takes all the evidence that Charles Darwin was using himself and puts it on the creation side, because the Bible does not say that God created all things exactly as they are today. So let me tell you several different things that God could have put into that creation in order to allow it to change over time. First of all, created diversity. God could have put heterozygosity into the genomes of those original kinds. So you have a whole bunch of different chromosomes, and some gene in that chromosome. Some organisms have an A, some has a T, some have an A and a T, some have two T's, some have two A's. That's diversity built into those original kinds. Now, as babies are being born, you have generations after generation after generation, it is quite likely that you're going to have an offspring that has a bunch of recessive traits, and it's going to look a lot different than the originals. You could have brand new phenotypes popping out in the middle of a creation sort of a context. He didn't have to create white bears and brown bears and black bears. He could have just created black bears, and all the other colors could naturally arise from the diversity God put into that creation.
Right. All those variations, all your species of bears arising from the one bear archetype. From those front-loaded DNA differences, those front-loaded functional DNA differences, you have the manifestation now of new species, new phenotypes. Not novel in the evolutionary sense, because that ability was already there in the first place.
Yeah, same with people. People are the same way. You can have, brown eyes. You can have a kid with blue eyes because it's a mutation. Now, obviously, you move north, it's going to be a little while before they start getting blonde hair, but that can happen. It's a pretty quick process. All the information's right there inside of us. Unless, of course, lots of time passes and those genetic things get weeded away from us, because that's what SFT is always saying. We lose the genetic potential. People that have been locked in Africa they're genetically adapted to that region. So the information that would have been in their ancestors off the ark is now missing. So the more time passes, the less information we have inside of us. That's what we mean by information. Information is a broad spectrum term. It's like saying evolve. Do we say the word evolved? Yeah, I use it all the time. It's just used as it's a broad spectrum term used to explain multiple different things. So when people go, you don't believe in evolution, that's why Standing for Truth always says, let's define what you mean by that first. Let's define terms, because evolution can mean anything. You don't want to be arguing against somebody that believes the same thing as you because you're using the same term to mean something else. So that's all.
Great point, especially with humans when it comes to all the ethno-linguistic differences we see today from heterozygous ancestors, from an Adam and Eve with design diversity. Okay, we can easily explain every single ethno-linguistic difference we see today on the planet, every single shade of skin. I mean, if you have Adam and Eve that were, say, a middle brown skin, capital A, lowercase a, capital B, lowercase b, from there you can explain every shade of skin on the planet. And mutations obviously have their effects as well, which is interesting. We did an event actually with almost the entire creation research team, how all the variations today from just Adam and Eve, and then also specifically at the Tower of Babel, the way that the allele frequencies are. So I definitely recommend watching that. So yeah, great point. Not a problem for the creation model. Easily explainable, and nothing post hoc, ad hoc about it either, because we've made predictions and those predictions are already coming true.
A second thing that God could have done is put a lot of latent information into the genomes of his creation. There are these things called retrotransposons, or jumping genes, and a lot of retrotransposons have a gene promoter in them. And so if they're stuck in one place in DNA, they turn on a gene. If they move, the gene gets turned off. So as jumping genes are popping out and popping into the genomes in different places, they can literally turn things on and turn things off.
Notice these retrotransposons, these jumping genes jumping around the genome, turning things on and off. Okay, with this, especially the fact that they have a promoter sequence. So the fact is, even retrotransposons or endogenous retroviruses, ALU sequences, even they, which evolutionists look to as evidence for common ancestry, especially human evolution, actually turns out to be, again, more evidence for created heterozygosity, variation-inducing genetic elements.
Exactly.
The VIGE hypothesis, and that's what we're seeing. These jumping genes are helping turn on and off genes, leading to more variation, beneficial variation.
Yeah, the thing about it is these things, the body requires ATP. They're feeding them energy. So though the evolutionists say, well, they're just junk, they're evolutionary leftovers. And if you investigate them, oh, look, they don't code for protein, so they're junk DNA. It's like, look, they still have a function, and they're vital functions. Just because they don't do what you consider vitally important doesn't mean that they don't have secondary alternate functions that are highly beneficial and functional. So junk DNA to them is what they need to be true, because if you have a genome that's not full of junk, then it destroys their paradigm. So when we look inside of us and we see these retrotransposons, these things are junk DNA, ERVs that have function, these don't make sense to them. So they invent rescue devices. And in reality, these are all great evidence for young Earth creation because of the created design diversity.
So remember this. Okay. One of their best arguments, conspiracy cats especially, he uses this all the time. I debated him on this for 2 hours. So they'll say, okay, we've got these retroviral-like elements that are shared between species. Okay. Humans share retroviral-like elements with chimpanzees, so on and so forth. So they'll say that these must trace back to a common ancestor where they're inherited from, when in fact, now we know, okay, that these retroviral-like elements are functional and beneficial to living organisms. So the thing is, why do humans and let's say chimpanzees share certain classes of retrotransposons? Why do they share a number of endogenous retroviruses? Well, and this is the question I always ask, and it's so funny because that's stated clearly. He did a two-part, like he did two videos, very short, trying to refute our 2 or 3 hour response to him. He didn't even address any of the challenges we put forth. He took like 2 little parts out of a 3-hour video that he thought he could maybe address. I mean, it was just a complete fail. But this is why we point out that the question is, are these endogenous retroviruses and other classes of retrotransposons, are they really the result of ancient viral infections, or are they the result of creation? Are they created units of DNA function? So we, as biblical creationists, from the created heterozygosity hypothesis, would predict that because these are created units of DNA function from our model, this is the assumption, then we would assume that they would be beneficial, functional, helpful for healthy life processes in the cell, like we see with these pseudogenes. And that's exactly what we find. Prediction after prediction being confirmed. ERVs, important and beneficial in immune response, as I said, healthy life processes in the cell, the embryological development, cell stress responses. I mean, we could talk all day about what their benefits are. So why are they in similar spots in creatures like humans and chimps? Common design. If they were front loaded, if they're created, then of course humans and chimpanzees are more similar in anatomy, physiology, genetics. Then obviously they're going to share more. Okay. You're going to expect more similarities between a human and a chimpanzee than between a human and a dog. That's just normal. It's in the same way we're going to expect more similarities between a sedan and a hatchback, or a sedan and an SUV, than a sedan and an airplane, or a sedan and a boat. It's just expected on both models. That's why the differentiating line of evidence is what, Matt? It's function, DNA function. Function's on our side. There's preliminary evidence now for genome-wide functionality. So I know that was a lot there, but it's just so important. Did you want to add anything, brother?
No, I'm going to start getting loud here in a minute. The family just came home. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. What we're going to do, guys, is we said we were going to go for 2 hours, and we're now going on.
This is not something that God had to program initially. It's something he could have programmed and allowed to happen over time.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah.
So we're actually going on almost 2.5 hours. So what we're going to do is start to wind it down. I'll play a little bit more of this video. We'll give some final comments, and then we're going to close it down for the night. It's been fun. 2.5 hours really flies by. I hope people have enjoyed this. You guys have been a blessing. I think we're more than halfway there as well. So yeah, let's a few more minutes, and then we're going to start winding it down, Matt. So here we go, brother.
Third mechanism that allows change to develop over time is something we know that God put into creation. This is recombination. In sexually reproducing organisms, you have a scrambling of DNA every generation. And if you have 2 genes that are next to each other in the genome, they don't recombine very often. So imagine that he created in the dog kind one chromosome that has 2 genes, one codes for height and one codes for muscularity, and they're right next to each other. And on one chromosome, he creates tall and muscular. And on the other chromosome, he creates short and skinny. Well, as those gene pairs are being passed on, the offspring are either going to have 1 or 2 copies of the tall and muscular gene at the same time, so you might get a mastiff. Other ones are going to have 2 copies of the short and skinny gene, so you might get chihuahuas. I'm making this up, of course. It's not.
Jackson Rose said, man, we didn't get to my intro. Yeah, I know. I think we underestimate, Matt, how much we can talk even on one video. But Jackson, because you did make some interesting points, we will, even if it's just me, I'll do a video. Or maybe even one day we'll have you on, me and you, and we'll kind of just review your opening statement, because yeah, that's definitely something we are going to get to. So
how genetics works, just an example. But you're never going to get a tall, skinny dog, and you're never going to get a short, muscular dog unless recombination happens between those genes. And if that happens, the genes switch places, and now you can get a tall, skinny dog like a great.
See, if that happens, the genes switch places, as you pointed out. Therefore, you get morphological change, brand new phenotype. But guess what? It's not the result of large scale evolutionary processes. It's because it was already there. That the capability was already there. It's not like God created this phenotype, but God created the ability, front loaded the ability for that novel phenotype, right? So it's not like the phenotype itself was a special creation, but the ability for that phenotype, simply by the switching of these genes, the switching of these alleles, made it possible. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no problem. It was I mean, we like genetics, right? So we're into that. We could talk about genetics
Right.
all day.
That's the problem. We took a genetics related video, and therefore we could talk all day about it. Plus Dr. Rob Carter, I mean, we love him. He's awesome. Neff says morphological change is insufficient to explain evolution. Anatomical change would be necessary for evolution to be true. Amen, brother. Amen. Well said. That's exactly right. So what we see is all of this morphological adaptive episodes, all of this morphological variation. But what we don't see is anatomical change, new anatomical features arising, right? There's a difference between morphology and anatomy. So very, very important distinction. And I'm glad that Neff pointed that out.
A hound or short muscular dog like a bulldog. Those features did not exist in the originals in this example. They developed over time through recombination. So we can get new diversity appearing because God initially programmed it, but he didn't have to directly program it. He put it in a place that could recombine and come up with new combinations of information. A fourth thing to consider is something that geneticists are calling a pangenome. That is, all of the genes within a species. Consider E. coli, the simple bacterium. It's got 4,288 genes. Only it doesn't. If you look at all the E. coli in the world and do a massive gene survey, there's about 5,800 genes we find in E. coli. The classic laboratory strain has...
This point about pangenome is important, guys, so pay attention. But yeah, Neff says evolutionists claim morphological change proves evolution, which is false. Exactly. I mean, this morphological variation or this microevolutionary variation that we see, okay, because they'll often say, well, you know, evolution just means a change in allele frequencies and populations over time, okay? That's not going to explain the true anatomical novelty that you need for large-scale evolution to be true. So you can look to all the morphological variation in the world. It's never going to be evidence or support for that type of fish-to-fisherman large-scale evolution. It's just not going to do it. What we see in terms of these novel phenotypes, what we see in terms of this morphological variation is the fact that this ability for that change was already present. And it's been revealed simply by recombination, gene conversion, which are incredibly complex, complicated mechanisms in and of themselves. How do you evolve recombination? The fact that recombination can lead to this beneficial change. I mean, we see forward thinking all throughout the world, which points us back to the forward thinker. So no, yeah, exactly. Morphological variation is no evidence for anatomical change, truly novel anatomical changes.
Less genes than we can find in all other places. And so we find that maybe in one environment, there's another species of bacteria that's producing a chemical that E. coli needs to live. Well, if E. coli has those genes, what happens if those genes are accidentally deleted? It's good for the bacteria. It can get that product from the environment, and it doesn't have to maintain that section of DNA. So the pangenome concept allows us to think that God created a lot of different genetics in the created kinds. He didn't just create 2 E. coli. He didn't have to just create 2 dog-like things. We know he created 2 people, but he doesn't say that about any other species. So he could created a lot of different dog-like things and put a lot of different genetics in them. And then over time, we have heterozygosity through just shuffling genes. We have recombination. We have jumping genes. We have all these ideas that come into play that allow species to change over time. So just like if you walked into this forest and you saw it the way it is now, you might miss the fact that there's been radical changes in this environment over the last several centuries. Same thing for Darwin. He was looking at farm animals. He was looking at small-scale changes in a very narrow window of time. And he extrapolated into the past, saying, I see no limit to the amount of change. But wait a minute. All the examples that he was using were creationist examples, things that we happily adapt and happily bring into our model of where things came from. Before I go, I'm going to bring up one more concept for you. This is a big phrase. This comes from the writings of a creationist geneticist named Pierre Terborg. His articles over the years have blessed me incredibly.
So as you saw there, Matt, I'd like your thoughts on this. Baranomes, the original created baranomes. You have the original created kinds, let's say the dog kind, okay? You can't think, oftentimes skeptics think, you know, there would have been Chihuahuas, Great Danes, Coyotes, you know, dingoes, whatever, you name it. No, just like he said earlier with your bear kind, your bear archetype off of the ark, from that one bear archetype come all of your other bear species. Okay. When you actually look to the pre-flood world, you're going to have different variations, different phenotypes than what we see today, especially if oftentimes environment dictates the phenotype. Well, you have different environmental conditions pre-flood. So these archetypes that come off the ark in the post-flood world that are now experiencing different environmental pressures, then we're going to have different adaptive episodes, right? So you're going to expect different morphological variations, different phenotypes. It's not going to be exactly like the variations that existed in the pre-flood world. You know, does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, the first time I really heard about baraminology was a really detailed description of it, and it's pretty amazing because you can see the characteristics that would be in each of the created kinds, the hollow baramins, and then all the things that branch off from them aren't very far. There's not like some have a lot of diversity within the species, others just don't, and that's how you can determine what's related and what goes back. That way, you don't always have to test, right? Because most of the time it was what's fertile with the other one. And if they can bring forth, they're of the same kind. Well, what do you do with the fossil record? Well, you can't do anything with a fossil record. There's no DNA. So it has to be morphological differences that you're looking for. And that's how we determine it. So I love it.
Great points. Great points. So that those initial baranomes, which we are working to kind of figure out what they were. Okay. At creation, you don't just have front-loaded nuclear variation, let's say, okay? You would have front-loaded variation-inducing genetic elements like the ERVs, the jumping genes, the ALU sequences, right? Everything that would make up these initial baranomes. And that's why a significant prediction that old earthers and evolutionists seem to forget about is this prediction of DNA function. If this really is the case, that God would have front-loaded the original created kinds with all of this ability to change and adapt, then of course we're going to expect more and more findings pertaining to DNA function, epigenetics. We've predicted this on pseudogenes. I mean, pseudogenes used to be one of their best lines of evidence. You know, why do humans and chimpanzees share genetic mistakes in the same genetic locations? You know, they'll say, well, obviously they must have inherited this plagiarized mistake from a past common ancestor. And he said, wait a minute. We know so little about the DNA language. We are just in the infancy of understanding the DNA language. So what? Okay. It would be like me or Matt agreeing to go over to Russia and become a proofreader for some new Russian books coming out. I mean, we don't know how to read or write Russian. At least I don't, Matt. I don't want to speak for you, but so I wouldn't know what's a mistake, what's not a mistake. And that's what these evolutionary scientists are doing when it comes to the genome, is they're assuming junk, assuming this is a genetic mistake, when in fact, they don't actually understand the DNA language enough to even make that assertion or conclusion. Because what we're finding is these lines of evidence, they're being overturned. Pseudogenes, we now have paper after paper showing how highly functional they are. ERVs, okay, the so-called junk DNA is being overturned. So the differentiating line of evidence when it comes to universal ancestry and separate ancestry is DNA function. Do biological organisms reflect millions of years of evolutionary history? A reflection would be evolutionary leftovers, genomic fossils, genetic mistakes, evidence for the ancient remnants of viral infections. Okay, that would be their prediction. We would predict function, beneficial variation, and that's what we're finding. So let's see here. LPP. Awesome. For anybody that wants to, support us and help out with this campaign, I believe the link still is pinned. And for anybody new, we still got 50 people. This has been a great show. We've had a great audience. God bless all of you. I mean, the support really is just overwhelming. So let me, for anybody new, here we go. A 2-minute video that's kind of going to give you a good overview of what we've been doing tonight. We've been going for 2.5 hours. So therefore there may be some new additions to the chat. So here we go. Hey everybody, Donnie and Matt here from Team Standing for Truth. While most of you see me on a regular basis, none of what has been done with the channel and the creation of the amazing content you guys have come to know and love could have been done without Matt, my original partner here at Standing for Truth. He's been turning out videos for our ministry almost daily for years now. And unfortunately, his computer has finally reached the end of its life. We really need your help. You guys are the life and blood of this channel, and we have to help him get a new computer so that we can get back to producing the content you love and helping spread God's word. He's in California, I'm in Canada, and I don't have his skills at video production. So until we get him back in business, production is on temporary lockdown.
Okay, so here's what's up on my end. In order to do what I do, I need a computer that has at least 16 gigabytes of memory, a high-speed processor, and a high-end graphics card. Otherwise, it can take 3 to 4 times as long to render videos. Things crash mid-production, and you literally can't do anything with the computer until the video is done. For major projects, that means you can waste an entire day of productivity just waiting. And if the computer crashes, you have to start over. It makes you want to pull your hair out. Good thing I used to be an MMA fighter and can punch a bag to get out my frustrations. To get back to work, we really need to raise about $3,000 as soon as possible. And I really hope everything we have produced has earned your trust in our abilities and we have earned your support. However, there are a few upgrades that would make things even better. So if we could get to about 3,500, that means we can get a computer with extra RAM that will make things even faster. And if we can get to 4,000, that gets an even better processor and things can be lightning quick.
Now, I don't want you to think we are asking for huge donations or feel that small donations won't help us get a new computer. I'm actually hoping a bunch of people can make small donations. And as a community, this problem can be solved and solved quickly. We really need your help. Logical, plausible, probable even had to help us put this video together. What would we do without good old John Maddox? Thank you in advance for your support, ideas, and prayers. As I've said so many times before, you guys really are the life and blood of this ministry. Please make sure to share this around with all of your friends and help us get back to work. God bless all of you. I want to say, wow. While that was going on, we had an extremely generous donation of $1,000. You know, that is God bless you. God bless everybody. You know, we're at 2,700. We're 90% there, 90% of the way there. Anton says, great stream. I appreciate it. It's fun, actually, just kind of going live like this, Matt, and just like, off the cuff, you know, maybe we'll do this, maybe review that. You know, we're going to do more of this, especially if, as we're seeing here, I mean, so much support, just really, it really is encouraging and motivating. I mean, wow. Just really shows how many people are benefiting from the work that we do, the content that we put out. It really is, you know, God really is working through you guys. God's working through this ministry. The truth is important. I'm glad that people, even of differing opinions, differing views, they enjoy I'm always getting emails and comments from even, you know, atheists, people of differing views saying, you know, how appreciative they are over the debate platform, the fact that we can get people of differing views and differing positions and differing sides jumping in here and just us giving them a platform to hash it out. You know, and that's why I put I have a disclaimer too, because we believe at Standing for Truth in critical thinking. We want people of differing views, different positions to come on, utilize the platform, debate important topics, discuss important topics. So that means we have such a diversity of guests. It would be silly to, as some people have assumed, that the views of Standing for Truth would necessarily reflect the guests that we have. And Neff really knows his stuff. Matt, I suggest we get a hold of Neff after this and help him or have him kind of join us in the next stage, which will be getting the new computer. I'm just looking over the chat now. LPP. Let me see here real quick. Let me refresh. So from what I'm seeing, let me see here. We are 90% of the way there. What do you see, Matt, on your end?
Yeah, like 90%, 2,700.
Yeah. 2,700. Wow. In 2.5 hours. I mean, God bless you guys. That's awesome. Jackson Rose says, Neff, what language are you speaking? You know, I'm saying the same thing. I mean, Matt, this is probably more your area, right? Neff knows. I mean, we've grown enough now where it's almost a must to have, you know, a professional computer, professional editing program, because we have so many ideas. I appreciate that, Neff. We're going to be getting a hold of you. Yeah, that's all. Matt, anything you want to add? I've been going on for about 5 minutes straight. So go ahead, brother. Speak your mind. What's going on? What are your thoughts? How do you feel? I mean, look at this. I mean, look at our supporters. Look at what a blessing. You know, God's really working through this. What are your thoughts, man? Let's hear.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because I never get to see much of like how much people really enjoy the videos, right? I just go right back to work on making the next one. I'm like, well, you know, as long as people have content to go to and as long as they get their questions answered, I'm like, it's good. Sometimes I always wonder, like, man, it's pretty much overkill. Like I keep hearing comments going, oh, I don't watch your videos. I just listen to them. And I'm like, oh no, all that time. It could be a radio podcast, but I keep editing anyway. And I'm like, nah, it'll help. It'll help. And I guess it does. Look, people are helping out. They want to see more of it. So I guess my edits are doing good.
I'm trying to see here. John saying, don't know the name, but he goes by MD Aware. Is that the name of one of the donators, John? I'm not sure. You're going to have to, I'm looking at him right now. See top. Oh, just now. Let me see here. I don't think it's showing up right now though, because it's saying there's another $1,000 donation, but it's not showing up for me on the actual number. Do you see it?
No.
Or maybe because it's reached the goal now, it
just won't go above it.
I see it. It says just now.
Oh, weird. I don't see anything.
Yeah. In his image, I'm the same way. So all day I'm listening to either a lecture or a debate. I go through several lectures and debates a day where if I have, okay, I appreciate that, LPP. If I watch a video, right, I watch it for the first time, I'll still re-listen to it, especially if it's a technical lecture where I just have it on in the background, right? I'm just kind of listening to it. Yeah, that's Redline says, he listens all day. Yeah. A good thing. I think a lot of people are that way where they watch. I know I'll watch the video, but then afterwards I'll have it in the background kind of listening. So let's see here. Yeah, I'm not sure because I see new donations coming in, but I don't see the actual. Like if you click top donations, there's another donation 2 minutes ago, Matt, but it's not showing up as. Oh, LPP. He says, I figured it out, showing both the most recent and the top donation.
Oh,
okay. I'm not sure. John, he
means that he thought we got two. It wasn't. It just shows twice. It was like a person donated, and then it read.
Okay.
Then it read it again, saying, "Oh, this was the top." So he thought it happened twice.
As I said, as I said before, John, he's our scholar and expert at this. So, John, what would we do without you, brother? Anybody not yet subscribed to John's channel, which I think everybody is. He puts on the best open mics. Please check that out. Jamie Russell says, I figured out. First, check your WhatsApp. Let me check right now, my man, Jamie. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right, Jamie. Yes. John's doing there we go. It just changed. And wow. Bam. Amazing. It just changed. We did it, guys. In 2 hours and 36 minutes. We hit it. We crossed. We didn't just hit it. That's like 100 and I'm no mathematician there, Matt. That's like 130% of our goal.
Yeah.
29 donors, 29 shares, 40 followers. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Matt, your studio better look like the Bat Cave.
I can get lights now.
I want to see a 4K webcam. I want to see an external mic. I want to see a screen here, a screen here, a screen there. The Bruce Wayne of Young Earth creation.
I'll only wear a mink fur coat from now on. A bunch of necklaces.
Yeah. So where's the new computer? Big fur coat.
Yeah.
$2,000 golden chain.
I know exactly what to do.
Yeah, see? And Godzilla Freak says SFT pulling out the $30 external mic. Yeah. It's funny? I've got the more expensive one here, the Blue Yeti. And I actually prefer the cheaper one. I've tested them both and I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's just one of those things that like when you're used to something, you don't want to change it up. So I have experienced myself, even I've got like probably 4 or 5 webcams around here and it's not even the most expensive one that I use. So sometimes, name brand and Godzilla Freak says, I only know because I have the exact same. It's good, right? It gets the job done. I like it. It's comfortable. It's not complicated. It's just literally up or down, increase the volume or decrease it. So, but no, all jokes aside, a little light humor, laughter is the best medicine. Wow. We can't thank you enough. This is awesome. We say this all the time. This is just the beginning, and the last 3 years have flown by. Although Matt, I think we could speak. I could speak for you. We wouldn't want to redo it all over. Could you imagine going back to square one?
It would be it'd be hard because all the stuff we saved and even didn't even back up.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy to think about. That would be so hard. I mean, we'd do it, but man, it would be rough.
What's the one that because I just saw Neff. What's the one you have in mind, Matt? I think you have it listed on the GoFundMe, right?
Yeah. I've been trying to grab Jason a link for this whole time, and I'm scrolling through. It's kind of hard to do on the phone. I don't know how he does everything on the phone, but yeah, it should be down in the link description.
No, I'm saying the laptop you're looking to get, isn't it in the fundraiser?
Yeah. Here
it's listed there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. There's the specs.
It's there. I can also put it here in the side for you.
So Neff, maybe. Well, Matt, why don't you explain what it is, and we'll see what Neff's thoughts on it. But offline, Neff.
Right.
We'll get a hold of you, brother, and we'll get your advice and your kind of expertise on this. So Doki Doki, I appreciate that. New ministry website. Yes. I've sent the web designer some updates just last night, so it should be. Neff doesn't seem to think the laptop would be a good idea, but he does say okay, as in let's get a hold of him. Oh no, wait, John, it's a desktop, right, Matt?
Yes. Yeah. A laptop would just be not enough. It wouldn't be designed for editing. It would be if I travel and I don't move, I sit right here all day. So yeah,
Right.
desktop all the way.
Wow, just got another donation in. Thank you so much, Aaron. Some have names, some are anonymous. I'm not sure if people want their name said. So I mean, I gotta thank everybody for their generosity, and also our members right here. Thank you to our awesome members. We've gotten a ton of new members today, so I'm gonna add you into our banner here. Thank you so much. I mean, that's awesome. Amen. Amen. Shelley says, thanks for the fellowship and entertainment. God bless you all. Time for me to kick back and binge watch Dr. G Medical Examiner. Well-deserved rest there, Shelley. We appreciate you guys sticking with us tonight. Great audience, great show. And Jamie says, you look fine, good, and healthy. Because as you're sitting there all day doing your editing, at least you're, drinking your coconut water, staying hydrated, right?
Sometimes. Sometimes I'll go without sleep and you'll see it. I'm like dark circles. I don't eat. I'll just shred down and wait. Right now I'm doing all right, but it just depends. Sometimes you catch me and I'm just in the zone. Like when I did the Arn Raw Flood series, I didn't do anything for 3 weeks, but just sit and edit. I couldn't sleep. I hyper focus on things. So yeah, you caught me at a good time, I guess.
Sometimes I'll see you got an arm curl, a dumbbell to the side. You're doing your
just one arm
workouts with one arm, and
just one, yeah.
You're editing with the other. So Jamie, yes, $4,400. We hit it. We surpassed it. God bless all of you. That is amazing. Time has flown by. I mean, this video has actually gotten me some ideas for some more shows in the future. Probably in the next week, I'd like to go through Dr. Carter's entire series and just kind of add our thoughts as we've been doing. And then also, there's a couple other videos we want to get through as well. So that being said, again, there's really no word to describe the generosity of our supporters. There's no amount of times we can say thank you, because it really is just amazing. So again, thank you so much, Matt. And any kind of final words, final thoughts you want to make before I guess we just call this a night. I mean, we hit it, and it was a team effort. And, Jamie Russell says you deserve it. And you know what? You guys deserve the best content. You guys deserve the best debates, the best interviews, the best videos, the best books, articles. You guys deserve it. So we're going to give it to you. Matt, go ahead, brother.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. That was fast. Didn't know how long this would take. I didn't even know if the goal would be met, let alone matched, even in a couple weeks. So I was willing to just kind of go with like, oh, well, a couple hundred comes in. It's better than nothing. I just get what you can, right? Improve the old. But it's like, fixing up a used car. It's still on the last leg. You're just keeping it going. So this will be great. It's amazing. I just found out something interesting. So if anybody right now is listening and you're in another country, can you check and see if the Standing for Truth website loads for you? Because I just had a person from Australia say that the link doesn't work for the Standing for Truth Ministries coming from Australia. He has to set the VPN to the United States for it to actually load. So if anybody else is farther away, does it actually work for you? That's just a question. You can leave the comment in the chat below after this video is over. But we would just like to know, because that's he pays a lot for the website. We want it to work worldwide. Worldwide. So I just got a text that it's not working. So just thought I'd put it out there.
Definitely let us know, because as Matt said, yes, a lot of work, a lot of time and effort, and websites aren't cheap, especially to have them run monthly. So we want to make sure it's working for everybody around the world. So Alpha Beta says, I am from Europe and the SFT website works. So yeah, I've never had anybody say that there's an issue with the website from, depending on what country you're in. I mean, George is from Australia. He doesn't have a problem. So, but if people can check for us, that'd be awesome, because it could also be an issue with whoever the individual is. So there's the link to the website. Check that out. Keep us posted. Let us know. And yeah, awesome. I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun, Matt. Tons of fun. We'll continue reviewing this Dr. Carter series maybe in the next week or two. I think it's an important topic that really you can't talk about too much, right? There's just because there's so much information out there. So anyways, everybody, we still got 53 people. God bless you all. We've got some work to do behind the scenes, so we're going to call it a night here. Again, thank you so much. I mean, we, as Matt said, you know, we weren't expecting to hit it so quick, and not only hit it, but surpass it. So it's a real encouragement and a real motivator. So we're going to get to work for you guys. We're going to make you proud. So God bless you, Matt. God bless John. God bless you for helping to arrange this. We appreciate it, brother. Such a big help. So God bless you all. Standing for Truth is out.